Chapter 419, The Su Family's Pledge of Allegiance to the Great Xia Dynasty, Yu Fei's Pre-Battle Deployment. Cheng Yaojin, meanwhile, looked at Yu Fei with an extremely aggrieved expression, yet his face also carried a hint of anticipation. Clearly, he fully agreed with Zhao Zilong's suggestion. After hearing Zhao Zilong's words, Yu Fei sighed helplessly. At that moment, he neither agreed nor refused. Instead, he slowly looked toward the middle-aged man beside him. Only then did the generals of the Great Xia Dynasty turn their attention to the middle-aged man beside Yu Fei. The main reason was that the middle-aged man next to Yu Fei was too unremarkable to them. A mere middle-aged man of the King realm naturally failed to draw their attention. One must understand that in the eyes of Zhao Zilong, Lu Bu, and the others, anyone who could catch their attention had to be at least a Saint King realm existence. This lowly one, Su Yun, greets all generals. The middle-aged man instantly reacted, and smiling apologetically, he cupped his hands toward the generals of the Great Xia Dynasty. Even towards Cheng Yaojin, he showed immense respect, although he knew that Cheng Yaojin was merely a cultivator of the initial Saint realm. While Cheng Yaojin might be looked down upon by the other Great Xia Dynasty generals, he was still 2 major realms higher than Su Yun. Therefore, Su Yun's eyes naturally held profound respect. Tell the generals, present the purpose of your visit. Yu Fei waved his hand at Su Yun and then spoke slowly. Clearly, Su Yun had already told Yu Fei the purpose of his visit, and Yu Fei simply needed him to repeat what he had just said. Upon hearing Yu Fei's words, the assembled generals all turned their gaze toward Su Yun. They wanted to see why this cultivator, who was only of the King realm, could garner such importance from their marshal. I, Su Yun, am a disciple of the Su family, one of the 3 major families of Ice Frost City. The main reason for my presence here, General, is to pledge allegiance to you. Su Yun then slowly began to explain his background and purpose. When he mentioned his desire to pledge allegiance to the general, his eyes were filled with awe as he looked at Yu Fei. After all, a marshal whom all the Great Xia Dynasty generals held in high regard could not possibly be weak. Simultaneously, Su Yun stated his objective. After much discussion, the Su family had decided to open the gates of Ice Frost City to allow the Great Xia Dynasty army entry. The gate the Su family guarded in Ice Frost City was the West Gate. Although the distance to the West Gate guarded by the Su family was not close for the Great Xia Dynasty army. If the Su family could open the West Gate, it would be much easier for them to enter Ice Frost City. After all, once inside Ice Frost City, they could unscrupulously deal with the Ouyang family and the other armies within. The Su family could easily open the West Gate, and they could also attempt to open the South Gate. However, the Su family was not very confident about the South Gate, so they had to focus all their efforts on the West Gate. Furthermore, after cooperating with the Great Xia Dynasty army, they would open the West Gate, allowing the Great Xia Dynasty army to enter and then conquer the entire Ice Frost City, starting from the West Gate. This was the pledge of allegiance the Su family offered to the Great Xia Dynasty. The generals were somewhat surprised after hearing Su Yun's words, but they showed no sign of joy. After all, whether the West Gate opened or not made little difference to them. As long as Yu Fei gave the order to attack, conquering all of Ice Frost City would be extremely easy. Therefore, after hearing Su Yun's words, their expressions remained largely unchanged. In fact, they were still eagerly awaiting Yu Fei's order to attack. As long as Yu Fei gave the order to attack, Lu Bu and the others could definitely resolve the situation at Ice Frost City easily. Su Yun was slightly surprised to see that the generals showed no great delight. However, he did not dare to look up and meet the gaze of the Great Xia Dynasty generals. Instead, he quietly lowered his head, minimizing his presence. You all understand the situation now. Therefore, I have decided to dispatch one general to lead a unit toward the West Gate for the attack, while all other generals will launch their assault from the North Gate. Yu Fei slowly stepped forward and spoke. Although the Su family surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty could indeed resolve some minor troubles for them, for the Great Xia Dynasty, the Su family surrender was not of great importance. The North Gate is the most fortified gate of Ice Frost City, and it is the gate directly in front of us. Therefore, aside from the army attacking the West Gate, all other generals must lead their troops to attack here. Yu Fei spoke slowly again, but this time he was already deploying the battle plan. As for the other army, after breaking through the West Gate, they're to charge directly towards the Ouyang family's imperial palace. I hope the leader of this army can penetrate the Ouyang family's imperial palace at the fastest speed possible and disrupt the Ouyang family's palace defenses. Yu Fei's deployment continued to unfold, and upon hearing his plan, the Great Xia Dynasty generals present showed signs of excitement. Perhaps initially they had looked down on the West Gate, but now they all eagerly turned their attention toward the West Gate. I intend to entrust the attack on the West Gate to Zilong this time, as Zilong is the most dependable among you. Amidst the expectant gazes of the crowd, Yu Fei slowly looked toward Zhao Zilong, then spoke to him calmly. Zilong will certainly not fail the Marshal's expectations. Zhao Zilong had not expected Yu Fei to entrust such an important task to him, so he stepped forward and spoke to Yu Fei with a serious expression. After speaking, Zhao Zilong's face carried a look of resolve. The other generals felt a bit disappointed after hearing Yu Fei's words, but their disappointment quickly faded. After all, by attacking the North Gate, they could confront the Ouyang family's full strength head-on. At that time, they would also be able to show off their skills, perhaps even succeeding in becoming the most dazzling individuals in the army. And as Yu Fei slowly began his deployment, the opening of this great battle was about to commence. Of course, Yu Fei's plan this time was quite simple. Apart from the army led by Zhao Zilong, all other forces would press the attack directly from the North Gate. The reason Yu Fei did not wait for further changes inside Ice Frost City this time was primarily because Su Yun had already explained the situation inside Ice Frost City very clearly. Chapter 420: The Su family's unexpected plan against Yu Fei. The horn of attack sounds. After Yu Fei finished deploying the arrangements for this attack, the various generals of the Great Xia Dynasty also began making their preparations. In particular, Zhao Zilong directly led a troop secretly toward the west gate of Ice Frost City. His troop was to launch a direct assault on the west gate of Ice Frost City and capture it with the fastest possible speed. After that, they could directly launch an attack on the imperial palace of the Ouyang family in Ice Frost City. Thinking of this, Zhao Zilong excitedly led his troops straight toward the west gate of Ice Frost City. Meanwhile, Su Yun of the Su family, having received Yu Fei's order, quickly returned to the west gate. The west gate was originally guarded by their Su family, so Su Yun entering the west gate naturally did not attract the attention of the empire. After Su Yun returned to the west gate, he met up with the Su family head, Su Zhan. At this time, besides Su Zhan, the Su family's old ancestor was also guarding the west gate. This Saint King-level old ancestor of the Su family was also here defending the west gate. Upon seeing Su Yun arrive, the Su family old ancestor immediately gave the Su family head a look. The Su family head was very tactful and dismissed all the generals around him. Subsequently, the only people present were the Su family head and the Su family old ancestor. Of course, besides the two of them, everyone else present was an elder of the Su family. Therefore, they could naturally participate in this discussion. How did the matter I entrusted to you turn out? The Su family old ancestor slowly turned his gaze towards Su Yun, his eyes filled with anticipation as he spoke to Su Yun. After speaking, he leisurely cast his gaze toward the outside of the west gate. The other members of the Su family also looked at Su Yun with expectant faces. They wanted to see whether the Great Xia Dynasty was willing to accept the surrender of their Su family. Su Yun did not fail the old ancestor's trust. This time, the Great Xia Dynasty agreed to our surrender. At the same time, the Great Xia Dynasty has dispatched a troop toward our west gate. As long as we open the west gate, this troop of the Great Xia Dynasty can enter. After hearing his old ancestor's words, Su Yun's face showed a hint of pride. Clearly, completing this task made him feel proud. However, he quickly explained the task he had completed and the decision of the Great Xia Dynasty. Are the Great Xia Dynasty's troops not planning to all enter through the west gate? After hearing Su Yun's words, a look of confusion instantly appeared on the Su family head's face, and he questioned Su Yun with uncertainty. The other elders of the Su family also looked at Su Yun with great confusion. They had thought that all of the Great Xia Dynasty's troops would head toward their west gate this time, but they never expected that the Great Xia Dynasty's troops would choose to only send a single troop in their direction. The strength of the Great Xia Dynasty's troops is terrifying, and the strength of their generals is also terrifying. This disciple suspects that the general heading toward our west gate this time has reached the Saint King realm, and is even a powerhouse within the Saint King realm. After hearing the Su family head's words, Su Yun also spoke earnestly to the Su family old ancestor. He naturally had his reasons for suspicion. Following this, the Su family head, Su Yun, and the others began discussing matters concerning the Great Xia Dynasty. At the same time, Su Yun told the Su family members about the situation he encountered in the Great Xia Dynasty's military camp and the top-tier powerhouses he met. Only after Su Yun finished explaining everything did the Su family head and the Su family members finally breathe a sigh of relief. Then, everyone began anticipating the arrival of the great battle. Time quickly moved to the next day. As soon as the sky brightened on the second day, a horn was sounded within the Great Xia Dynasty's camp. Following the sounding of the horn, all the troops of the Great Xia Dynasty began gathering together. At the same time, Lu Bu and the 7 generals of the Yang family walked directly at the front of the formation. At this moment, both Lu Bu and the 7 generals of the Yang family looked spirited and vigorous. Of course, standing beside them was Cheng Yaojin, holding a three-bladed axe. At this moment, he too was riding his warhorse toward Ice Frost City like a protagonist. The movement of the massive army was immense. The mere sound of the horn and the movement of the great Xia dynasty's troops toward the north gate instantly caused the ground beneath to begin shaking violently. At the same time, this instantly attracted the attention of the Ouyang family's troops inside Ice Frost City. The troops inside Ice Frost City immediately fixed their gaze upon the troop outside the city. Even the old ancestors of the Ouyang family in Ice Frost City opened their eyes and looked down at the army below. Although they were initially confused as to why the great Xia dynasty's troops had not attacked them, the old ancestors of the Ouyang family remained guarding the top of the north gate. If they wanted to fight the great Xia dynasty's troops below the north gate, they had to hold the north gate. As the massive army continuously approached, the old ancestors of the Ouyang family revealed solemn expressions on their faces. Their eyes were solemn as they looked below. Meanwhile, the great Xia dynasty's troops were still slowly and continuously drawing closer. In particular, the unrestrained late Saint King Qi emanating from Lu Bu instantly caused the old ancestors of the Ouyang family to feel solemn. At this moment, Lu Bu brazenly released the late Saint King Qi from his body, his eyes filled with killing intent as he stared at the city wall of Ice Frost City. This person is likely the strongest general in this troop. An old ancestor of the Ouyang family looked solemnly at Lu Bu, who was wearing a suit of 100 Flowers battle armor, and then, with gravity in his eyes, he spoke to the other old ancestors of the Ouyang family. He should not be the strongest general in this troop. The strongest one in this troop should be that general behind him who looks ordinary. The ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family shook his head, then leisurely turned his gaze toward Yu Fei among the troops. Yu Fei's strength had also reached the late Saint King, and if they truly fought, he might not be a match for Lu Bu. However, at this time, he was very far away from Ice Frost City, and he had also restrained the qi on his body. At the same time, he was commanding the entire army, which instantly led this Saint King-level old ancestor of the Ouyang family to believe that Yu Fei was the strongest existence in this troop. But they did not know that the strongest individuals in the army led by Yu Fei were Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong. Both of their strengths had reached the late Saint King, and their abilities were evenly matched. Of course, Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong could easily defeat a cultivator at the Saint King Consummation Realm. Chapter 421, The Great Battle Begins, and Cheng Yaojin's Bizarre Moves. At this moment, Lu Bu, clad in 100 Flower battle armor and wielding a heavenly halberd, stood outside the gates of Ice Frost City, his gaze filled with domineering as he looked at the Saint King-level old ancestors of the Ouyang family. It was evident that Lu Bu's eyes were filled with excitement as he looked at the old ancestors of the Ouyang family before him, as if they were mere prey. At the same time, he showed no regard for these old ancestors of the Ouyang family. Today I, Lu Bu, come to attack the city. Those who are wise, surrender to this general. Otherwise, this general will show no mercy in today's assault. He leisurely rode his red-hair horse to the city wall and spoke to the old ancestor of the Ouyang family on the wall. Of course, his voice was very loud, echoing throughout the entire city. The old ancestor of the Ouyang family and the soldiers inside Ice Frost City naturally heard Lu Bu's words. The ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family slowly walked out, a look of solemnity in his eyes as he gazed at Lu Bu below. If you want to fight, then fight. Then, a look of solemnity finally reappeared in his eyes, and he looked at Lu Bu with a serious expression, saying this. After speaking, the aura of the Saint King realm on his body completely erupted. Instantly, the surrounding space began to slowly crack. At the same time, a terrifying force emanated directly from above Ice Frost City. Upon seeing this, a playful expression appeared in Lu Bu's eyes, and a hint of madness also flickered in the corner of his eye. Then, he wielded his heavenly halberd and charged directly at the old ancestor of the Ouyang family, a brutal power instantly erupting from his body. Upon seeing this, the old ancestor of the Ouyang family quickly drew a long saber and swiftly charged towards Lu Bu with the saber in his hand. Then, his long saber clashed with Lu Bu's heavenly halberd. However, the old ancestor of the Ouyang family underestimated Lu Bu's strength. So the moment they collided, the old ancestor of the Ouyang family was directly sent flying by this terrifying force. He was like a cannonball, smashing directly into the city wall. Instantly, a huge deep pit appeared on the hundreds of Zhangtal city wall. Lu Bu, with a wild laugh, charged towards the old ancestor of the Ouyang family. As for the old ancestor of the Ouyang family, upon seeing this, he quickly transformed into a silver-white ray of light and charged at Lu Bu. Although that previous strike caught him a bit off guard, the strength of the old ancestor of the Ouyang family was not weak, no matter how one looked at it. Therefore, a silver-white light and a purple light continuously clashed in the sky. The power generated by the collision of the two lights also caused the surrounding trees and dust to constantly fly. It was as if two tornadoes were continuously erupting in this great battle. As Lu Bu and the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family began their great battle, the 7 generals of the Yang family and Cheng Yaojin could no longer hold back. They all charged towards Ice Frost City. Among the 7 generals of the Yang family, Yang the eldest, Yang the third son, and 7th son Yang had all broken through to the Saint King realm. Of course, besides them, Yang the fourth son's strength was an unrivaled existence even among those in the early stage Saint King. Therefore, they possessed 4 Saint King level experts. Upon seeing this, all the Saint King realm old ancestors of the Ouyang family naturally moved out, and they were seen charging towards the 7 generals of the Yang family and Cheng Yaojin. However, no matter what, the cultivation of these Saint King level old ancestors of the Ouyang family had at least reached the mid-stage Saint King, so they instantly gained the upper hand when battling the 7 generals of the Yang family. What's more, the Great Xia Dynasty side also had Cheng Yaojin, who was only in the initial Saint realm. So, for a time, besides Lu Bu, the Great Xia Dynasty side truly did not have the upper hand. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin was also being chased and beaten by a Saint King level old ancestor of the Ouyang family. Beside Cheng Yaojin were Yang the second son and Yang the fifth son. Both of their strengths were only at the perfected Saint realm, but even together, it was still somewhat difficult for them to contend against a mid-stage Saint King old ancestor of the Ouyang family. So, the two of them were currently suppressed by this mid-stage Saint King old ancestor of the Ouyang family. Upon seeing this, Cheng Yaojin quickly rode his warhorse, wanting to escape the battlefield. Of course, at this time, he mainly thought that even if he stayed on the battlefield, he couldn't help the Yang family generals. Instead, he would only bring them trouble. However, at this moment, Cheng Yaojin himself didn't realize that he had run in the wrong direction. He was currently running towards Ice Frost City. Upon seeing this, Yu Fei also had a look of helplessness in his eyes. He hadn't expected the lucky general arranged by his emperor to be such a reckless fellow, who now didn't even know where his own troops were. The soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City, upon seeing this, showed a playful expression. They hadn't expected such a foolish person to be on the Great Xia Dynasty's side, but no matter how foolish Cheng Yaojin was, he was still considered a vice-general. One must know that in the Sui and Tang world, Cheng Yaojin was originally a vice-general, let alone in this heaven-defying Xuanhuan novel. Cheng Yaojin was seen running towards Ice Frost City, and the Saint King-level old ancestors of the Ouyang family naturally saw this scene as well. Thus, a Saint King-level old ancestor of the Ouyang family directly struck out a palm towards Cheng Yaojin. The terrifying power was probably something that even ordinary perfected Saint realm experts could not withstand. Yu Fei, in the Great Xia Dynasty's military camp, also couldn't help but want to block this palm for Cheng Yaojin upon seeing this. However, he was too far from Cheng Yaojin at the moment, so even at his fastest speed, Yu Fei couldn't block this palm for Cheng Yaojin. Thus, Yu Fei could only stare helplessly in Cheng Yaojin's direction. At this moment, he hoped that Cheng Yaojin's identity as a lucky general would play a role, and Cheng Yaojin did not disappoint Yu Fei. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin began to get tired, and then his warhorse suddenly saw something and directly fell to the ground. At the same time, the attack from that Saint King-level old ancestor of the Ouyang family directly passed over Cheng Yaojin's head. It grazed Cheng Yaojin's hair by a hair's breadth. Then, it directly left a huge palm print on the city wall of Ice Frost City in front of them. However, Cheng Yaojin narrowly dodged this attack. At this moment, Yu Fei was also bewildered. He hadn't expected this fellow, Cheng Yaojin, to be so lucky. He could even dodge the attack of this old ancestor of the Ouyang family under such circumstances. However, when Yu Fei thought of Cheng Yaojin's fate as a vice-general, he understood. But others didn't understand so easily. Chapter 4, 22 Cheng Yaojin's Lucky General Destiny. Cheng Yaojin who traverses the battlefield. At this moment, they were all secretly cursing Cheng Yaojin for having such good luck, as everyone had believed Cheng Yaojin would perish under that move. But they never expected him to stand up completely unharmed, instead continuing toward Ice Frost City. Of course, not everyone could have such good luck. After all, how could a Saint entry-level expert fall to the ground because of his warhorse? Meanwhile, the old ancestor of the Ouyang family was growing increasingly furious. He had not expected a move launched by him, a Saint King-level expert, to fail to eliminate an ant in the initial Saint realm. Thus, he was seen quickly launching another attack toward Cheng Yaojin. The terrifying power instantly caused the world to lose color, as if the entire area was instantly enveloped by this dreadful force. Moreover, this terrifying power directly shot toward Cheng Yaojin. However, at this moment, Cheng Yaojin seemed unaware of this terrifying attack, as he was still riding his warhorse continuously toward Ice Frost City. Soon, Cheng Yaojin saw Ice Frost City before him, and when he saw Ice Frost City, a look of stupefaction appeared on his face. Clearly, Cheng Yaojin realized at this moment that he had run the wrong direction, and simultaneously, when he saw all the generals on Ice Frost City walls focusing their gazes on him, only then did Cheng Yaojin turn without looking back and head directly toward the other battlefield. At this moment, he wished he had 2 more legs. Yet, it was precisely this action of his that completely avoided the attack from the Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family. The attack from the Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family was seen grazing past Cheng Yaojin's head before violently striking the Ice Frost City wall. Instantly, the city wall of Ice Frost City began to tremble. Everyone now looked at Cheng Yaojin as if they had seen a ghost. They had never imagined that fellow Cheng Yaojin possessed such luck. Even the Saint King level Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family couldn't help but be dumbfounded at this moment. It was already ridiculous that he managed to dodge his attack once, but now Cheng Yaojin had actually dodged his attack twice. Furthermore, Cheng Yaojin, who had dodged these 2 attacks, seemed completely oblivious to the fact. This instantly made the Saint King level Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family feel disbelief and rage. However, Cheng Yaojin still did not know that the god of death had grazed past him several times. Instead, he quickly entered the battlefield. Yet, his miraculous actions had just begun. Cheng Yaojin was soon seen arriving beside Yang the Eldest, one of the 7 generals of the Yang family. At this time, Yang the Eldest was fighting against a mid-stage Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family. The long spear in his hand continuously clashed fiercely with the mid-stage Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family. Naturally, the Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family also saw Cheng Yaojin intruding into their battle area. But after seeing Cheng Yaojin's realm, a hint of disdain appeared on the Saint King Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family's face. He was seen directly launching an attack toward Cheng Yaojin, intending to eliminate Cheng Yaojin with it. Upon seeing this, Yang the Eldest naturally could not allow Cheng Yaojin to lose his life just like that. Thus, he was seen quickly moving in front of Cheng Yaojin, intending to block the attack. The long spear in his hand swiftly appeared before Cheng Yaojin, directly blocking the attack. Cheng Yaojin, meanwhile, looked at the Saint King level Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family before him with lingering fear. He had not expected the Saint King level Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family to actually attack him. However, at this moment, Cheng Yaojin's face showed a trace of lingering fear. Obviously, Yang the Eldest helping him block that attack just now naturally frightened him. At this moment, Cheng Yaojin made a face at the Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family before planning to head out of the battlefield. But how could the Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family tolerate an entering Saint Realm cultivator making faces at him? Wasn't this blatant provocation? Thinking of this, the Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family immediately tossed out the long spear in his hand, and this long spear, like a shooting star, shot directly toward Cheng Yaojin. Cheng Yaojin was only focused on fleeing at this time, paying no attention to the long spear behind him. However, the axe in his hand unexpectedly dropped at this moment. As the axe in his hand fell, Cheng Yaojin flipped off his horse. He then intended to pick up his axe from ground. The long spear from the Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family grazed past Cheng Yaojin's warhorse. Then it directly pierced toward another Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family. Soon, this long spear, like an arrow released from a bowstring, stabbed directly toward the other Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family. This Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family also had not expected a long spear to fly toward him while he was engaged in battle. Thus, he was seen quickly using the weapon in his hand to block the long spear. However, after seeing the true appearance of the long spear, this Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family frowned, then looked angrily at the Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family who had just launched the attack. The Saint King level Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family who had just attacked saw the look in the other Old Ancestor of the Ouyang family's eyes and forced an awkward smile. Afterward, he angrily turned his gaze toward Cheng Yaojin. But by this time, Cheng Yaojin had already left the battlefield, and he was completely unaware of everything that had just happened. He didn't even know what had occurred moments ago. Yu Fei, who had witnessed everything that happened on the battlefield, had disbelief in his eyes. Is this fellow truly not the reincarnation of the legendary god of fortune? He can so calmly avoid sure-kill attacks on the battlefield. Then he was seen continuously muttering while looking toward Cheng Yaojin. However, Yu Fei now understood that Cheng Yaojin's identity as a lucky general was real. Yu Fei even wanted to throw Cheng Yaojin back on the battlefield, now to let Cheng Yaojin's lucky general status play a crucial role. But he was afraid that Cheng Yaojin did not have many lucky general attributes left, which might harm Cheng Yaojin, so he did not pay attention to Cheng Yaojin, who had already left the battlefield. Instead, he leisurely looked back toward the great battle in the center of the battlefield. What made him feel incredible was that Cheng Yaojin, who had just left the battlefield, for some unknown reason, was seen heading toward Ice Frost City again. Yu Fei could even see a very sly smile on Cheng Yaojin's face. At this moment, the generals on Ice Frost City walls actually ignored Cheng Yaojin's existence for a fleeting moment. Seeing this scene, Yu Fei instantly could not sit still. Chapter 423. Cheng Yaojin's godlike operation. The West Gate is breached. Evidently, his identity as a lucky general had once again come into play. At this moment, even the Saint King-level old ancestors of the Ouyang family had not noticed anything amiss with Cheng Yaojin. They were still constantly fighting against the generals of the Great Xia dynasty opposite them. As for Cheng Yaojin, he had already reached the city gate of Ice Frost City, relying on his fate as a lucky general. He suddenly appeared in an inconspicuous spot at the city gate of Ice Frost City. Then he climbed directly from the city gate of Ice Frost City onto the city wall of Ice Frost City. Subsequently, under Yu Fei's shocked gaze, Cheng Yaojin appeared directly on the city wall, and before anyone could react, he directly dealt with a soldier of Ice Frost City. Moreover, he changed into the soldier's clothes without being discovered. After completing this, Cheng Yaojin slowly began to move on the city wall. Yu Fei, who saw this scene from below, also let out a sigh of relief for Cheng Yaojin. At this moment, he finally understood how Cheng Yaojin's identity as a lucky general came about. However, after seeing Cheng Yaojin's actions, Yu Fei also decided that he would bring Cheng Yaojin along for all future major battles. After all, this guy could bring them unexpected results. It could be said that Yu Fei now felt that Cheng Yaojin might be the most crucial piece for them to break through the North City Gate. And at this time, perhaps because of Cheng Yaojin's identity as a lucky general, none of the generals on the city wall of Ice Frost City noticed anything unusual about him. Instead, all of them focused their attention on the battle ahead. Cheng Yaojin's side did not attract their attention at all, and Cheng Yaojin, on top of Ice Frost City, seemed to have noticed this as well. So he jumped directly from Ice Frost City and then disappeared from Yu Fei's sight. I hope this guy doesn't get into trouble this time, otherwise it will be very difficult to explain to the Emperor when we go back. Looking at the disappearing Cheng Yaojin, Yu Fei also sighed and said, but it could be seen that there was a hint of anticipation in Yu Fei's eyes. Evidently, Yu Fei was also very much looking forward to Cheng Yaojin's performance at this time. He wanted to see what kind of commotion Cheng Yaojin could stir up inside Ice Frost City. As for the battle outside, it was becoming increasingly fierce. The old ancestors of the Ouyang family seemed to have forgotten Cheng Yaojin's existence at this moment. Lu Bu, on his side, directly suppressed the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family in front of him with his heavenly halberd. Although Lu Bu's cultivation was only at the late Saint King, his displayed combat power at this time had far exceeded the late Saint King. Even the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family seemed somewhat insufficient in front of him. As for the other battlefields, the 7 generals of the Yang family were constantly maneuvering with the other old ancestors of the Ouyang family. And at the same time, several mid-stage Saint King generals from the Great Xia dynasty also went to assist the 7 generals of the Yang family. Therefore, the 7 generals of the Yang family and these mid-stage Saint King generals of the Great Xia dynasty were also gaining the upper hand. Just as Yu Fei launched his attack on the North City Gate, the West City Gate also began to move. The Su family head led the elders of the Su family to directly open the West City Gate, but they left a gap in the West City Gate after opening it. This way, it would be difficult for the Ouyang family's army to discover it. At the same time, Zhao Zilong, leading an army, also appeared outside the West City Gate. At this moment, he scanned the West City Gate with a distant gaze, and then he saw the main gate of the West City Gate, faintly discerning a gap. Then Zhao Zilong, without hesitation, directly led his team towards the West City Gate. The generals on the West City Gate naturally noticed this at this time, so they all tensed their bodies, looking at Zhao Zilong and the army behind him below. However, at this moment, there was not much worry on their faces. Apparently, the number of troops behind Zhao Zilong would still find it difficult to attack their West City Gate. And more importantly, their West City Gate was also guarded by the Saint King-level old ancestor of the Su family, so they naturally would not be too afraid of the army outside. But what they didn't know was that when the elders of the Su family and the people of the Su family on the city wall saw the army below, smiles appeared on their faces. As Zhao Zilong and others were about to reach the city gate of the West City Gate, the general of the Ouyang family on the city wall was about to order arrows to be fired when he felt the vitality in his body begin to dissipate. Then he saw his vision go black, and he fell directly to the ground. At the same time, a blood-red stream of blood could be seen gushing from his throat. Standing beside him was the Su family head, who held a long saber in his hand, with blood still dripping from the tip of the blade. Evidently, everything that just happened was his doing. And this scene was not only happening with the Su family head. Many generals of the Ouyang family in various places on the city wall had fallen. And beside them, a strong person at the entering Saint realm from the Su family also stood. After doing all this, the Su family head slowly turned his gaze towards Zhao Zilong and the others below. And just as Zhao Zilong appeared at the city gate of the West City Gate, the main gate of the West City Gate opened. A group of disciples from his Su family immediately began to welcome Zhao Zilong. Zhao Zilong also did not hesitate, directly riding his warhorse and leading his army into the West City Gate. At this time, the army guarding the West City Gate finally reacted. After all, this army had already entered their West City Gate. If they still hadn't reacted, that would be too fake. But at this moment, Zhao Zilong and the army he led directly began to slaughter the army of the West City Gate. Of course, the army they slaughtered were those who began to resist them. As for the people of the Su family, they were mixed among these armies, constantly killing the Ouyang family's army. So, with the Great Xia Dynasty's army joining the battle, this great battle also ended without any surprise, with the Great Xia Dynasty achieving victory. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, all the resisting soldiers of the West City Gate had fallen to the ground. The remaining were the armies that had thrown down their weapons and surrendered. At this time, the Su family head and the Saint King old ancestor of the Su family also finally appeared before Zhao Zilong. Although the Su family ancestor was also at the Saint King level, his cultivation at this time was only at the mid-stage Saint King. In front of Zhao Zilong, he felt a terrifying pressure. Chapter 424 Su Long Speculations about the Wang family, the desolate imperial palace. When feeling the terrifying pressure on Zhao Zilong, the Su family ancestor's face carried a hint of shock, but he quickly snapped out of the surprise. Then, he looked solemnly at Zhao Zilong. Of course, his heart was ecstatic at this moment, because if Zhao Zilong's strength was so terrifying, then how terrifying must the Great Xia Dynasty's strength be? Therefore, their Su family surrendering to the Great Xia Dynasty was a great opportunity for them, and the Su family might even have a great saint-level expert appear in the future. Thinking of this, the joy on the Su family ancestor's face involuntarily showed. Su Long of the Su family greets the general. Following this, the Su family ancestor quickly cupped his hands toward Zhao Zilong and spoke. At this moment, he no longer held his usual high and mighty demeanor, but instead acted like Zhao Zilong's lackey. Even the Su family members present were speechless upon seeing their old ancestor behave like this. But at this moment, they also followed their old ancestor's example, cupping their hands and bowing toward Zhao Zilong. Su Zhan, Su family head, greets the general. Su Tian of the Su family greets the general. After hearing the words of the Su family members, Zhao Zilong nodded toward them, and then he slowly turned his gaze toward the direction of the Imperial Palace in Ice Frost City. Since they had already taken the West Gate, the Imperial Palace was next. After all, Zhao Zilong's main goal this time was to capture the Imperial Palace. Just as Zhao Zilong's gaze landed on the Imperial Palace, Su Long of the Su family naturally understood Zhao Zilong's intentions. So he quickly stepped forward, cupped his hands toward Zhao Zilong, and spoke again. Reporting to the general, currently, only Ouyang Batian, a master of the Saint King realm, is inside the Imperial Palace. As for the other old ancestors of the Ouyang family who are also in the Saint King realm, they are all at the North Gate. And the Saint King of the Zhao family is currently at the South Gate. Su Long quickly reported all the information about the Imperial Palace to Zhao Zilong. At the same time, he revealed the entire relationship between Ouyang Batian of the Ouyang family and the old ancestors of the Ouyang family. Of course, he also informed Zhao Zilong about the three major families of the imperial capital, one of which was their own. In that case, if we want to take the Imperial Palace now, we only need to deal with Ouyang Batian. Zhao Zilong hadn't expected Su Long of the Su family to be so decisive as to tell him all the information inside the Imperial Palace, so he looked toward the direction of the Imperial Palace with some surprise. That's right, currently, only Ouyang Batian, an early-stage Saint King expert, is inside the Imperial Palace. As for the Wang family, they shouldn't help the Ouyang family, because the Wang family is not as simple as imagined. They seem to have come from the central region. Su Long nodded immediately after hearing Zhao Zilong's words, but he seemed to recall something quickly, and then slowly spoke to Zhao Zilong again. However, when he mentioned the Wang family, a hint of worry appeared on his face, because the Wang family was indeed not that simple. Since they arrived in the northern region, they had never paid attention to the Ouyang family. and the Ouyang family also had no intention of dealing with the Wang family. Thus, the Wang family and the Ouyang family had formed a state of balance. What realm is the strongest cultivator in the Wang family? Zhao Zilong hadn't expected the Wang family, one of the three major families, to be so extraordinary, so he began questioning Su Long, who was beside him. If the Wang family had a great saint-level expert guarding them at this moment, then it would be somewhat difficult for them to deal with the Wang family. Zhao Zilong's strength had indeed reached the late Saint King, and it could even be said that he had the power to fight even an early-stage great sage expert. But defeating an early-stage great sage expert was still extremely difficult. Unless he and Liu Bu joined forces, they might have a chance to defeat a great saint-level expert. The strongest in the Wang family should be a cultivator of the Saint King realm. Otherwise, how could they allow the Ouyang family to continue governing the empire? Su Long's face held some uncertainty at this moment. But thinking of the Wang family's low profile, he guessed that the highest cultivation level within the Wang family should only be a cultivator of the Saint King realm. After all, if the Wang family truly had a great saint-level expert, then how could they continue to let the Ouyang family govern the empire? They could govern the empire themselves. After hearing Su Long's words, Zhao Zilong nodded. He then decided not to pay attention to the Wang family and directly led the army he commanded toward the imperial palace. Seeing this scene, Su Long followed beside Zhao Zilong and the others toward the imperial palace. Naturally, the Su family disciples around him also followed beside Zhao Zilong. They did not want to miss such a good opportunity. Having just surrendered to the great Xia dynasty, they naturally wanted to earn merit. Only by doing so would their surrender to the great Xia dynasty lead to them being heavily utilized. When Zhao Zilong saw Su Long of the Su family and the Su family disciples following him, he did not show much emotion. Instead, he calmly led the great Xia dynasty army through Ice Frost City. Soon, Zhao Zilong led the great army to appear at the gates of the imperial palace. The imperial palace was extremely quiet at this moment. Even the soldiers guarding the city seemed not to have noticed the arrival of Zhao Zilong and the others. This was the extent of the authority Ouyang Batian could command after his power had been hollowed out. At this moment, Su Long looked at the lofty imperial palace gates, and a hint of emotion appeared on his face. He never expected that one day he would follow others and fight his way here. One must know that this was something he previously dared not even dream of. At this time, some soldiers slowly appeared at the imperial palace gates, but it was visible that all these soldiers wore expressions of panic and confusion as they looked at the army of Zhao Zilong and the others below. Zhao Zilong, however, gazed calmly at this army. His voice, carrying both peace and a hint of killing intent, spread throughout the entire imperial palace entrance. Those who surrender shall be spared death. His voice was like a sound transmitted by a demon from hell, instantly causing the army on the city wall to show expressions of struggle. As they saw the Su family members, the struggling expressions on their faces slowly faded away. Then, soldier after soldier dropped the weapons in their hands, and several soldiers even directly opened the imperial palace gates. Seeing this scene, several Su family elders quickly moved to control the soldiers of the city gate, then looked respectfully at Zhao Zilong. As for Zhao Zilong, he led the army behind him toward the entrance of the imperial palace. Soon, Zhao Zilong's army entered through the imperial palace gates. Chapter 425. The white-haired figure easily entered the Frost City's palace and entered the main hall. As Zhao Zilong led this army into the imperial palace, the guards inside the imperial palace were also crestfallen, not even daring to look up at Zhao Zilong and the others. Zhao Zilong felt a bit helpless at this sight. He had originally thought he would have to use his strength to force his way into the imperial palace, but he didn't expect the soldiers inside to be so uncooperative. This instantly made Zhao Zilong lose interest, but he still led his army continuously towards the imperial palace. Of course, his current position was still in the outer court of the imperial palace. As their steps advanced, in a short while, Zhao Zilong led the army to the outside of the inner court city wall. Standing on the inner court city wall at this time was also an army, led by Ouyang Long, an entering Saint-grade cultivator. At this moment, he looked at Zhao Zilong's army with a hint of death chi in his eyes. The moment he saw Zhao Zilong's army, he understood that they could no longer defend the imperial palace this time. At the same time, Ouyang Long naturally also saw Su Long below. He hadn't expected the Su family to be the first to surrender to this army outside. Ouyang Long also instantly understood why this army could enter Ice Frost City so quickly. It was probably all due to the Su family. Thinking of this, he looked at Su Long of the Su family with a hint of resentment in his eyes. Although there were indeed disagreements within their Ouyang family, no matter what, the empire belonged to their Ouyang family. Now that the Su family had betrayed their empire, it naturally made him furious. and the true king and king realm generals beside him looked at the army below with helpless expressions. Although they had long anticipated that this army from outside might attack their imperial palace, they hadn't expected the army to enter their imperial palace so quickly. Of course, upon seeing the people of the Su family, they also understood why this army could attack their imperial palace so quickly. Su Zhan, I didn't expect your Su family to be the first to surrender to this army. Your Su family is not worthy of being called one of Ice Frost City's 3 great families. Ouyang Long took a deep breath, slowly stepped forward, and spoke to the Su family head, though his eyes full of rage were impossible to conceal. The generals beside him, upon hearing his words, also looked at the people of the Su family with hatred. As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. My Su family believes that the empire this time cannot withstand the great Xia dynasty's army, and you're even less likely to withstand the general's attack, so what is wrong with us surrendering to the general? Su Zhan slowly stepped forward at this moment, looking at the people on the city wall and speaking. When he mentioned Zhao Zilong, his eyes were full of respect. I advise you to surrender quickly now. Otherwise, when the general slaughters all of you, don't blame me for not reminding you. After speaking, he respectfully cupped his hands to Zhao Zilong, and then advised Ouyang Long and the others on the city wall to surrender. However, at this moment, his eyes held a hint of disdain. Clearly, his Su family looked down upon the Ouyang family. And Ouyang Long, upon hearing Su Zhan's words, instantly had his mind filled with anger. Then, with an angry expression on his face, he looked at Su Zhan below. At this moment, he wished he could jump directly from the city wall and kill Su Zhan. However, he still suppressed the anger in his heart and slowly turned his gaze towards Zhao Zilong. Zhao Zilong, however, was calmly looking at the army above. Of course, Zhao Zilong had no intention of directly making a move at this moment. Go open the city gate. Subsequently, with no discernible emotion in his voice, he directly spoke to the 2 vice commander deputy generals beside him. The cultivation of these 2 deputy generals beside him had already reached early stage Saint King, making them among the top existences in the entire northern region. And these 2 deputy generals, upon hearing Zhao Zilong's words, looked at the imperial palace's city gate ahead with excitement. Then, the 2 of them, each holding a long spear, charged towards the city gate. Behind the 2 were dozens of true king realm cultivators. These were the generals within the army Zhao Zilong had brought. As for the Saint Realm cultivators, they were not deployed at this time. The army on the city wall, seeing this scene, also began to shoot arrows downwards. But how could their arrows possibly injure masters above the true king realm? The 2 deputy generals were very fast, arriving at the city gate in a blink of an eye. Their long spears directly pierced towards the city gate, and in the next second, the city gate before them was directly broken open. The moment the city gate was broken open, the true king realm generals of the great Xia dynasty beside them immediately took control of the city gate. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, so it wasn't until the city wall was breached by Zhao Zilong's deputy generals that Ouyang Long and the others above reacted. However, even if they reacted at this moment, there was nothing they could do, as it was impossible for them to directly come down and close the city gate. After completing all of this, the 2 deputy generals also directly charged onto the city wall. Zhao Zilong, seeing this scene, waved his hand at the soldiers behind him. The people of the Su family, seeing this, also quickly followed the great Xia dynasty's army and charged onto the city wall. Soon, the soldiers guarding the imperial palace's city wall were completely controlled by the great Xia dynasty's army. Even Ouyang Long looked at Zhao Zilong with an unwilling expression at this moment. He himself was severely wounded by one of Zhao Zilong's early-stage Saint King deputy generals, and he was not far from death at this moment. Of course, no matter how unwilling Ouyang Long was, Zhao Zilong would not pay him any mind. Instead, Zhao Zilong slowly led the army towards the imperial palace's main hall. The imperial palace's main hall at this moment appeared extremely silent, as if there was no one in this imperial palace's hall. Zhao Zilong, leading Su Long of the Su family, slowly walked towards the imperial palace's main hall. Of course, behind them was an army of King Realm and above. As footsteps slowly echoed through the hall, Zhao Zilong and the others finally entered Ice Frost City's imperial palace's main hall. Zhao Zilong, having just entered the imperial palace's main hall, also saw the white-haired middle-aged man sitting in the imperial palace's main hall. Although the middle-aged man's age did not seem particularly old, his full head of white hair made him appear very striking. Chapter 426: The Fall of Ouyang Batian. The nation's fortune plummets instantly. This white-haired middle-aged man seemed to have anticipated the arrival of Zhao Zilong and the others. He slowly raised his head, looking toward Zhao Zilong. A bitter look crossed his face as he glanced at Zhao Zilong. before slowly shifting his gaze to Su Long, who was beside Zhao Zilong. I didn't expect the Su family to have prepared so early. It seems the Su family made their choice even before this army arrived at my empire. The middle-aged man slowly looked at the Su family head and spoke, though a hint of bitterness remained at the corner of his mouth. Your Majesty, we had no choice. We could not possibly be a match for the general and his forces. So now Your Majesty should also surrender to the general. Su Long felt helpless upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, but he still stepped forward and spoke to him. Naturally, his expression was somewhat helpless as he spoke. After all, he was the first to surrender to the great Xia dynasty. I will not surrender. However, for the general to destroy this rotten empire is a good end for me. I only ask that the general does not implicate the citizens and cultivators of the imperial capital after my death. This white-haired middle-aged man was the emperor of the empire, Ouyang Batian. At this moment, he had lost his former high spirits. Although the Ouyang family had treated Ouyang Batian extremely unfairly, Ouyang Batian still chose not to surrender to the great Xia dynasty. Instead, he seemed completely relaxed. He looked at Zhao Zilong and implored him, despite the fact that he was indeed a failed emperor. Yet, he was still concerned for the people and cultivators of the imperial capital. From this, one could see that if Ouyang Batian had truly possessed the authority of an emperor, he would absolutely have been a revivalist ruler. This general can agree to your request. Zhao Zilong had not expected Ouyang Batian's final request to be this. He slowly took a step forward and immediately agreed to Ouyang Batian's request. After all, if the great Xia dynasty wanted to gain more support, it naturally could not commit acts of mass slaughter. Thank you, General, for granting my wish. Upon hearing Zhao Zilong's words, a look of relief finally appeared on Ouyang Batian's face. Immediately afterward, his aura began to drop drastically. In just a moment, Ouyang Batian's aura fell directly to the true king realm. Moreover, his face instantly aged, and his white hair began to slowly fall out. At this moment, he looked like a true old man about to step into his grave. As Ouyang Batian's aura grew weaker and weaker, a look of determination filled his eyes as he looked outside. Ling Shui, you must walk the path ahead by yourself now. Finally, the determination on his face turned into relief and completely vanished. He collapsed directly onto the ground, instantly losing all signs of life. Su Long of the Su family felt a surge of emotion upon seeing this scene. He hadn't expected a dominant ruler of the empire to fall so easily here. Zhao Zilong calmly glanced at Ouyang Batian's corpse before slowly speaking to the army behind him. Give him a proper burial. This was the last bit of respect Zhao Zilong could afford Ouyang Batian. After hearing Zhao Zilong's command, several soldiers quickly came forward and carried away Ouyang Batian's corpse. With the fall of Ouyang Batian, the dominant ruler of the empire, the entire imperial palace was completely controlled by Zhao Zilong. Just as Ouyang Batian fell, thousands of miles away from the empire, Ouyang Lingxue, who was about to leave the northern region, suddenly felt her heart skip a beat. She looked anxiously in the direction of the empire. What was going on? Did something happen to the old ancestor? She then looked worriedly toward the empire. Although she had been in the northern region these days, she didn't know much about the situation there, so she naturally didn't know about Ouyang Batian's circumstances. Furthermore, Ouyang Lingxue was currently rushing toward the eastern region. After all, under the oppression of the Ouyang family's experts, she could only survive in the eastern region. But what she didn't know was that the old ancestors of the Ouyang family who oppressed her were also about to completely fall. At this moment, following Ouyang Batian's fall, a celestial phenomenon marking the death of a Saint King-level expert appeared above Ice Frost City. The blood-red, celestial phenomenon instantly spread across the entire sky above Ice Frost City. At the same time, the entire sky seemed to mourn the fallen Saint King-level cultivator. The cultivators and common people within Ice Frost City also felt extremely sad amidst this atmosphere. At this moment, the empire's luck began to violently stir. The old ancestors of the Ouyang family instantly felt an unprecedented pressure upon sensing this surging luck. They even began to feel uneasy in their hearts. The primary reason they hadn't dealt with Ouyang Batian earlier, besides the bloodline power he possessed, was Ouyang Batian's connection to the national luck. Of course, even if they had killed Ouyang Batian directly at that time, the impact on the empire would not have been particularly significant. But now, Ouyang Batian's fall had a huge impact on the empire, because Ouyang Batian had truly become the master of the empire in a genuine sense. How could that damned Ouyang Batian fall at this critical moment? What a cursed fellow. The old ancestors of the Ouyang family naturally guessed some things, but at this moment, they believed Ouyang Batian had fallen by himself, not that he had been killed by someone else. Of course, Ouyang Batian had indeed fallen by himself. This fellow must have fallen at this time, just to retaliate against the Empire. Damn it. How are we supposed to defend the Empire after his fall? Another old ancestor of the Ouyang family was full of resentment at this moment. He was currently struggling to deal with the Yang family's eldest son opposite him. But even so, the anger on his face was impossible to conceal. Meanwhile, the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family, whose divided soul was distracted by Ouyang Baishan's fall, was immediately struck and sent flying by Lu Bu's heavenly halberd. He instantly crashed into the ground below like a meteor, and the earth shook from the impact. The old ancestor of the Ouyang family quickly climbed out of the earth the moment he hit the ground, then looked furiously toward the imperial palace. At this point, he could only continue to lift his weapon and launch an attack against Lu Bu. After all, Lu Bu would not give him a chance. Chapter 427, The Ouyang Family Patriarch Falls. Frost City is breached. With Ouyang Baishan's demise, the empire's national fortune plummeted by more than half, and the strength of the old ancestors of the Ouyang family, who enjoyed the empire's national fortune, was naturally curtailed. Therefore, the old ancestors of the Ouyang family, who had just been fighting to a draw with the generals of the Great Xia Dynasty, now slowly began to fall into a disadvantage. Take, for example, the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family, facing Lu Bu. In the beginning, he might have been able to withstand Lu Bu's attacks. However, now, facing Lu Bu's attacks, he appeared extremely strained, even being sent flying multiple times by Lu Bu. His body continuously collided with the surrounding buildings as if it were a cannonball. At the same time, numerous deep pits were left on the ground. These pits were created when this old ancestor of the Ouyang family collided with the ground. As this old ancestor of the Ouyang family was being beaten by Lu Bu, the other old ancestors of the Ouyang family also began to slowly fall into a disadvantage. The old ancestor of the Ouyang family, facing Yang the eldest, was even directly sent flying by the long spear in his hand, his entire body smashing into Ice Frost City like a cannonball. Instantly, a huge human-shaped crater appeared on Ice Frost City. As the old ancestors of the Ouyang family continuously fell into a disadvantage, Yu Fei immediately ordered the army to begin attacking Ice Frost City. This terrifying army of the Great Xia Dynasty also directly launched an assault on Ice Frost City. Instantly, the generals and soldiers of Ice Frost City began to feel uneasy. At this moment, they felt the ground begin to tremble. At the same time, the entire world seemed to have reached its final end, as the Great Xia Dynasty's army directly attacked the city gates of Ice Frost City. The soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City didn't even have a chance to react before their city gates were breached. Subsequently, the Great Xia Dynasty's army directly began to slaughter the soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City. Their strength already far surpassed that of the soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City. So, when the battle began, the Great Xia Dynasty's army quickly gained the upper hand. These soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City didn't even have the ability to resist. The Great Xia Dynasty's army, on the other hand, grew braver with each battle. They continuously massacred the soldiers of Ice Frost City before them, as if they were heavenly gods. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, tens of thousands of soldiers in Ice Frost City had fallen, and this was only because of the narrow streets of Ice Frost City when the Great Xia Dynasty's army attacked it, which limited the casualties. Otherwise, hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Ice Frost City would have already fallen by this time. As the Great Xia Dynasty's army grew fiercer, the soldiers of Ice Frost City also began to flee. Although they were loyal to the Empire, they could not sacrifice all their lives for the Empire. After all, the current situation was no longer within their control. Moreover, and more importantly, the Great Xia Dynasty's strength was too formidable, so these soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City knew they could not resist. More importantly, a black dot was continuously falling from the sky at this moment. When this black dot landed on the ground, despair instantly appeared in their eyes, because the black dot that landed on the ground was precisely their old ancestor of the Ouyang family, and moreover, it was the ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family. As for Lu Bu, he slowly descended from the sky. It was as if there were a heavenly ladder beneath his feet, supporting him as he continuously walked downwards. At the same time, the aura emanating from him made everyone present feel a chill. After Lu Bu descended, his gaze slowly swept over the generals of Ice Frost City. The terrifying killing intent on him instantly erupted, making these generals and soldiers of Ice Frost City instantly feel a chill down their spines. Just as Lu Bu had finished dealing with this ancestor at the perfected Saint King realm of the Ouyang family. At this moment, one black shadow after another appeared in the sky again. These black shadows continuously smashed down from the sky, and at the same time, several old ancestors of the Ouyang family could be seen falling lifelessly to the ground. At this moment, they had completely fallen into the hands of the great Xia dynasty. And with the demise of several Saint King-level old ancestors of the Ouyang family, seventh young master of the Yang family also appeared before everyone at this moment. They also carried a terrifying battle intent, looking at the city below with a hint of longing in their eyes. The soldiers and generals of Ice Frost City, who were already in a state of panic, seeing this scene, instantly had their last line of defense and their hearts crumble. Many soldiers immediately threw down their weapons and fled at this moment. At this moment, they knew that if they didn't flee, perhaps only death awaited them. Yu Fei, standing at the rear of the entire army, naturally saw this scene, so he shouted to the entire army, "Those who surrender shall not be killed. Those who lay down their weapons are surrendering. Those who hold weapons shall be executed without mercy." Yu Fei's voice spread throughout Ice Frost City. The soldiers who were originally fleeing, upon hearing Yu Fei's voice, all threw down their weapons. Then they were seen covering their heads and squatting on the ground, not daring to look up, their eyes fixed on the ground. At the same time, they continuously hoped in their hearts that the great Xia dynasty's army would not attack them. And at this moment, the great Xia dynasty's army indeed did not attack them. Upon hearing Yu Fei's command, their weapons were only directed at those soldiers of Ice Frost City who were still holding weapons. And when the soldiers of Ice Frost City saw that those who had thrown down their weapons were not attacked, they also instantly began to throw down their weapons. Whoosh! As more and more soldiers continuously threw down their weapons, an increasing number of soldiers chose to surrender. And at this moment, the heaven and earth phenomenon of a Saint King level expert's demise also appeared, and in the face of this heaven and earth phenomenon of a Saint King level expert's demise, the surrender of these soldiers of Ice Frost City appeared so harmonious, as if echoing the heaven and earth phenomenon. And because a considerable number of Saint King level cultivators fell this time, the range of the heaven and earth phenomenon in the sky this time was very far. When Ouyang Batian first fell, the heaven and earth phenomenon only enveloped Ice Frost City. But now, several Saint King level old ancestors of the Ouyang family had fallen, so the range enveloped by the heaven and earth phenomenon had already far exceeded Ice Frost City. Even the surrounding cities outside Ice Frost City also saw this blood-red heaven and earth phenomenon in the sky. Everyone looked at this blood-red phenomenon in the sky with an incredulous gaze. Chapter 428, Taking Frost City, the Wang family, a force to be reckoned with. At this time, the Zhao family, who were guarding the other city gate, naturally also witnessed this scene. In fact, the Zhao family had already noticed something amiss when Ouyang Batian fell. However, the celestial phenomena caused by the demise of so many Saint King level experts naturally drew their complete attention. Our Zhao family must quickly leave Ice Frost City. Only by doing so might we have a slim chance of survival. Otherwise, only death awaits us. The old ancestors of the Ouyang family must have all perished by now. Upon seeing this, the Zhao family patriarch immediately began issuing orders to the Zhao family members around him. Although the Zhao family and the Ouyang family were longtime acquaintances and were even in a state of continuous intermarriage, the current situation, however, could not afford them much time to consider. It could even be said that they had no other choice now but to flee. After all, if they did not flee now, they would have to face all the armies of the great Xia dynasty later. By then, they might not even have a chance to escape. Thinking of this, the Zhao family members all began packing up, preparing to flee. The old ancestor of the Zhao family also immediately began to flee at this moment. As a Saint King level expert, he certainly would not choose to flee alongside the Zhao family members. If the Zhao family members were caught by the generals and experts of the great Xia dynasty, wouldn't he, this Saint King level expert, also be caught by the generals and experts of the great Xia dynasty? Thinking of this, the Zhao family old ancestor immediately started fleeing. Meanwhile, the Zhao family patriarch also led the Zhao family members in their escape. Soon, the South City gate they were guarding fell without a fight. Even many generals began to flee following the escape of the Zhao family. At this moment, the army of the great Xia dynasty continuously advanced towards the imperial palace. Although it would be very easy for the great Xia dynasty's army to take down the other two city gates. Yet, Yu Fei did not intend to directly clash with the guards at these two city gates. Instead, he planned to wait a while and then directly secure those two city gates. Yu Fei naturally understood that although the strength of the great Xia dynasty was powerful enough to crush Ice Frost City, the generals at the two city gates would surely flee after the old ancestors of the Ouyang family perished. So why should he bother wiping out these people? After all, these people no longer posed any threat to him. And the reality was exactly as Yu Fei had anticipated. Following the successive demise of the old ancestors of the Ouyang family, The generals at the two city gates also began to flee. As for the soldiers, those who could escape did so, and those who could not simply chose to surrender and lie flat. To them, surrendering to any country was the same. As this army led by Yu Fei slowly entered the imperial palace, Zhao Zilong, who was inside the palace, had finally taken complete control of it. By the time Yu Fei arrived at the imperial palace, it had already been secured by Zhao Zilong. Therefore, Yu Fei and Zhao Zilong had completely taken Ice Frost City, and taking Ice Frost City meant they had completely conquered the Shuanghua Empire. Subsequently, Yu Fei instructed the generals to lead the troops in a continuous sweep throughout Ice Frost City. Any army or cultivator harboring hostility towards the Great Xia Dynasty was arrested. In just one day, only one voice remained throughout Ice Frost City, the voice of the Great Xia Dynasty. They had no recourse other than surrendering to the Great Xia Dynasty. Of course, there was one exception in Ice Frost City, the Wang family, whose origins were unknown. Although the Great Xia Dynasty's army had been sweeping through all the forces in Ice Frost City during this day, the Wang family, however, kept its gates closed. They chose neither to come out and resist the Great Xia Dynasty nor to surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty. It was as if everything happening in Ice Frost City had nothing to do with their Wang family. Inside the imperial palace of Ice Frost City, Yu Fei was currently sitting in the Great Hall, quietly observing the generals before him. And a steady stream of generals was rushing in from outside, their faces showing expressions of excitement. Clearly, taking Ice Frost City was a very joyous occasion for them. Reporting to the Marshal, the entirety of Ice Frost City, except for the Wang family, is now under our control. At this moment, Yang, the eldest of the Yang family, walked straight in and spoke to Yu Fei. When he mentioned this, a hint of helplessness appeared on his face. After all, he understood that the origins of the Wang family in Ice Frost City were not simple. Thus, upon learning this news, he immediately came to report it to Yu Fei. He would only act against the Wang family upon receiving Yu Fei's direct command. Net of Luo, an embroidered uniform guard, compile a report on the Wang family for me. After hearing Yang, the eldest of the Yang family's words, Yu Fei was somewhat surprised. He had known about the Wang family from the beginning, so he waved his hand at Yang, the eldest of the Yang family, then immediately questioned the net of Luo and the embroidered uniform guard. The net of Luo and the embroidered uniform guard have agents all over the world. It can be said that the net of Luo and the embroidered uniform guard now control the world's intelligence. Of course, there are some secrets they naturally cannot grasp. Soon, a member of the net of Luo, who was at the Saint entry level, slowly walked out from the crowd, holding a piece of intelligence in his hand. The embroidered uniform guard standing beside him also slowly walked out, holding a piece of intelligence. The embroidered uniform guard at this point was an organization no weaker than the net of Luo. Thus, they had naturally also investigated the information. Yu Fei looked at the two reports, took them into his hands, and began to read them. The content of the two reports was largely similar. The Wang family had indeed only arrived in the empire centuries ago, but their strength was not as simple as imagined. They already possessed 3 Saint King level experts alone. Of course, these were the Saint King level cultivators that the Wang family had revealed themselves. As for how many Saint King level cultivators their family possessed, the world did not know. However, the embroidered uniform guard and the net of Luo had investigated and found that the Saint King level cultivators the Wang family displayed matched the number of Saint King level cultivators they actually possessed. In other words, the Wang family in Ice Frost City only had 3 Saint Kings, and one of them was merely at the early stage Saint King. However, the embroidered uniform guard's investigation into the Wang family's clues also revealed that the Wang family likely originated from the central region. If they wanted to completely clarify their origins, they would probably need to mobilize the spies within the Netherworld. Without Chu Fan's command, it would be extremely difficult for them to mobilize the spies within the Netherworld. It could even be said that neither the embroidered uniform guard nor the net of Luo could mobilize the spies within the Netherworld. This was also the reason why they had not investigated the connection between the central region and the Wang family. Chapter 429 Yu Fei's Plans, the Arrogant and Overbearing Wang Family. Yu Fei also frowned as he looked at the intelligence report in his hand. He had not expected the Wang family to have such a background. Of course, even so, Yu Fei did not fear the Wang family, as the strength of their Great Xia Dynasty far exceeded everyone's imagination. Furthermore, the Great Xia Dynasty also had a netherworld established in the central region. The netherworld was now considered a top-tier power in the entire central region, so the Great Xia Dynasty naturally would not fear those so-called powers of the central region. Moreover, since the Wang family was able to come to the northern region from the central region, it could be inferred that the Wang family status in the central region was probably not very high. Zilong and Lu Bu make a trip to the Wang family. Tell them that if they do not surrender to my Great Xia dynasty, they must either move out of the northern region or else the Great Xia dynasty will show no mercy. Following this, Yu Fei directly issued the order to Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong, who were in the center of the main hall. If the Wang family truly only had 3 cultivators of the Saint King realm, then either Lu Bu or Zhao Zilong going alone could resolve the matter. However, to prevent the Wang family from having any hidden cards, Yu Fei decided to let Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu go together. After all, both of them were at the late Saint King stage, and working together, they were capable of fighting against a great saint-level expert. Therefore, even if the Wang family had a hidden card, a great saint-level expert would not be a match for the two of them, unless that great saint-level expert cultivation reached the mid-stage great sage or even the late-stage great sage. But if the Wang family had a divine rank expert, they would have long ago become the masters of the empire. After hearing Yu Fei's words, Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong bowed to him, their eyes shining brightly, and then the two of them led a team directly toward the Wang family. For them, anyone who refused to submit to their Great Xia dynasty would be suppressed by force, just as Yu Fei issued the order for Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong to head to the Wang family. Inside the tightly shut gates of the Wang family, in the Wang family's main hall, the Wang family head and the Wang family elders were currently discussing matters. And the matter they were discussing concerned the Great Xia dynasty. Family head, are we really not going to make contact with the Great Xia dynasty? The strength they have displayed is probably not so simple. Perhaps they could even help our Wang family. An elder couldn't help but stand up and ask their family head. As he spoke, a hint of anticipation was visible in his eyes. Clearly, he wanted to use the Great Xia dynasty to achieve his goal. When the other elders heard this elder's words, a gleam instantly appeared in their eyes, indicating that they also had some ideas. If our Wang family cannot accomplish something, how could their Great Xia dynasty possibly do it for us? Furthermore, if the Great Xia dynasty possessed such powerful strength, why would they help our Wang family? As this elder's voice fell silent, another elder slowly stood up and spoke with a hint of disdain. Of course, his disdain was mainly directed at the Great Xia dynasty's strength. After all, if their Wang family, which was already so powerful, couldn't complete that task, how could a mere Great Xia dynasty complete it for them? And even if the Great Xia dynasty truly had the strength to complete this task for them, why would the Great Xia dynasty complete this task for them? When the other elders heard this elder's words, they instantly understood the meaning behind them. They all frowned and looked at the Wang family head. I'm afraid that even if we don't provoke the Great Xia dynasty, they will come to provoke us. After all, they only took one day to ensure that only their voice was heard throughout Ice Frost City. I don't think they can ignore our Wang family. The Wang family head sighed at this moment, saying that as the head of a family, he naturally understood very well that the Great Xia dynasty could not allow them to continue existing within Ice Frost City. Even the Wang family would not allow a power to remain inside their territory, especially one that refused to surrender to them. If that is truly the case, then we should start considering how to deal with the Great Xia dynasty. The Wang family Grand Elder, who had kept his eyes closed and remained silent, slowly opened his eyes at this moment. He naturally understood the meaning behind the Wang family head's words. At the same time, they needed to consider how to deal with the Great Xia dynasty. Although their Wang family felt disdain toward the Great Xia dynasty, their strength in the northern region consisted of only 3 Saint Kings, making it somewhat difficult to resist the Great Xia dynasty, which had annihilated an entire empire. If they truly dare to lay hands on our Wang family, then the entire Great Xia dynasty will cease to exist. Why should we fear them? Another Wang family Grand Elder showed a look of disdain after hearing the first Grand Elder's words. He then looked up at the sky with contempt and spoke. Although they truly only had 3 Saint Kings in the northern region, how could the Wang family's power be limited to just Saint Kings? For a mere Wang family like yours to try and destroy my Great Xia dynasty is truly wishful thinking. Just as the Grand Elder's voice fell, a domineering voice suddenly came from the sky. As this domineering voice spread throughout the entire Wang family, all the people of the Wang family slowly turned their gazes toward the sky. At this moment, 2 figures slowly appeared in the sky. One was the demon god Lu Bu, and the other was White Horse Silver Spear Zhao Zilong. Having just arrived, they had heard the words of the Wang family Grand Elder, so Lu Bu could not help but speak directly to him. I didn't expect your Great Xia dynasty would actually dare to come to my Wang family. Aren't you afraid that my Wang family will completely destroy your Great Xia dynasty? When the Wang family Grand Elder heard Lu Bu's words, his face instantly darkened. He then glared at Lu Bu with anger and spoke. A mere Wang family like yours cannot shake my Great Xia dynasty. Now this general gives your Wang family 2 choices. The first is to move out of the northern region and leave the Great Xia Dynasty's territory. The second is to surrender to my Great Xia Dynasty and serve it wholeheartedly. Lu Bu raised 2 fingers as he looked at the Wang family members in front of him, then slowly stated the purpose of his visit. Of course, Lu Bu only gave the Wang family 2 choices, so how the Wang family chose now depended on their own thoughts. When the Wang family members saw the arrogant Lu Bu, the anger on their faces could no longer be suppressed, and everyone stared at Lu Bu with furious gazes. Chapter 430 The Wang Family's Wrath. The 3 supreme elders battle Lu Bu. When had their Wang family ever suffered such humiliation? Therefore, even the cultivators of the true king realm in the Wang family were now looking at Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong with faces full of anger. Evidently, they did not take Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong seriously at this moment. It was as if Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong were their enemies. But how could Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong possibly take these people before them seriously? The 2 of them merely stared calmly at the group of Wang family members before them. They were all waiting for the Wang family's response. Lu Bu's gaze, in particular, carried a threat. Clearly, if the Wang family did not give them an answer, he would absolutely annihilate the entire Wang family. Does the Great Xia Dynasty truly intend to fight my Wang family to the death? A Saint King level expert of the Wang family slowly stepped forward at this moment, looking at Lu Bu and speaking, but as he said this, his eyes held a hint of gloom. Although the Saint King level expert of the Wang family was extremely furious at Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong, he naturally sensed the qi of a Saint King level expert emanating from both of them. At the same time, this Saint King level expert also felt the terrifying qi surrounding Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong. He knew that the strength of these 2 individuals had already reached the late Saint King or even the perfection realm. Therefore, the Wang family was not yet a match for these 2 individuals, but their Wang family was not that simple. Thus, the Wang family intended to first appease the anger of the Great Xia Dynasty, and once their true power arrived, they could resolve the Great Xia Dynasty. The other members of the Wang family had clearly guessed the thoughts of their Saint King level Grand Elder, so despite the great anger in their hearts, they were currently staring at Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong with calm eyes. Evidently, they also wanted to wait for Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong's reply. Besides those 2 choices, the Wang family's final choice is self-destruction. Lu Bu had no intention of giving the Wang family any face at this moment. He slowly looked at the Saint King level Grand Elder of the Wang family before him, and then continued his domineering reply. After he finished speaking, his gaze lingered on the Wang family crowd in front of him. As long as the Wang family members refused, Lu Bu would immediately take action against the Wang family. As for Zhao Zilong, he stood calmly beside Lu Bu, clearly agreeing with what Lu Bu had said. When the Wang family members heard Lu Bu's words, the anger on their faces became even more pronounced. Even the Saint King level Wang family Grand Elder, who had just spoken, could no longer suppress the rage in his heart. He stared at Lu Bu with a furious expression, and then slowly spoke. If the Great Xia Dynasty truly plans to go to war with my Wang family, then the Great Xia Dynasty must be prepared to deal with great saint-level experts and above. Otherwise, I advise your excellency not to make an enemy of my Wang family. Although the Wang family Grand Elder desperately wanted to eliminate Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong, he also knew that if a fight broke out, their Wang family would definitely be destroyed by the Great Xia Dynasty. While their main family might avenge them later, they would already be dead. So how could they witness their main family taking revenge? The others, upon hearing the Wang family Grand Elder's words, also looked at Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong with anger, though they were clearly suppressing the rage in their hearts. Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong showed no reaction upon hearing the Wang family Grand Elder's words. Instead, Lu Bu suddenly pulled out his heavenly halberd. The qi surrounding his entire person instantly surged. At the same time, his eyes looked at the Wang family Grand Elder before him with contempt. Seeing this, Zhao Zilong naturally took out his dragon gallbladder bright silver spear, and the aura of the late Saint King stage from his body completely burst forth. The Wang family Grand Elder's eyes instantly darkened upon seeing this, and he stared furiously at Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu. Following this, the 3 Saint King level Grand Elders of the Wang family also directly took out their weapons, and all focused their gazes on Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu. Then, the 3 Wang family Grand Elders flew directly toward the sky, and Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu, holding their weapons, also charged toward the 3 Wang family Grand Elders in the sky. The strength of these 3 Wang family Grand Elders had all reached the Saint King realm, and 2 of them had even reached the middle stage Saint King. However, they appeared somewhat weak in front of Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong. After all, Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong's strength had both reached the late Saint King, and both were capable of fighting against Saint King consummation realm experts. When Lu Bu saw the weapons in the hands of the three Wang family grand elders, he showed no mercy, directly raising his heavenly halberd and striking at the Wang family grand elders. The terrifying force instantly caused the sky to tremble. At the same time, the heavenly halberd in his hand transformed into a terrifying sharp blade, slashing directly towards the three Wang family grand elders. The three Wang family grand elders were helpless upon seeing such a terrifying move and could only use the weapons in their hands to block it. However, no matter how they used their weapons to defend, they could only be sent flying by this terrifying force. Thus, the three Wang family grand elders were sent flying by a single move from Lu Bu. Although Zhao Zilong held his dragon gallbladder bright silver spear, he did not intend to take action at this moment. Since the three Wang family grand elders had already been sent flying by Lu Bu's move, why should he intervene in this great battle? Following this, Zhao Zilong descended from the sky, holding his silver spear. Soon, he stood in the main hall of the Wang family. At this time, the Wang family members in the main hall looked at Zhao Zilong with hostile eyes. After all, Zhao Zilong was their enemy. However, just as everyone focused their attention on Zhao Zilong, they heard the sounds of iron cavalry coming from outside the Wang family. Following this, King Realm and above soldiers and generals broke through the Wang family's main gate and entered the Wang family's main hall one after another. The strength of the leading generals had even reached the Saint King realm, and there were 3 Saint King level experts among them. As for the vice generals behind them, they were all Saint level experts. Moreover, there were dozens of these Saint realm cultivators, and the rest were all true King realm and King realm cultivators. In other words, the strength of the thousands of great Xia dynasty troops present had all reached the King realm and above. This instantly caused the Wang family members to gasp in cold air. Chapter 431, A battle on a completely different level. The Holy King Elder of the Wang family falls. Although the Wang family head had reached the perfected Saint realm, his face was terrifyingly grim when he saw this scene. He had naturally discovered the Saint King level experts within this army, as well as Zhao Zilong, a great Xia dynasty general whose strength was unfathomable. While it was true that the main branch of the Wang family was not afraid of the great Xia dynasty, the current strength of the great Xia dynasty was something this branch of their Wang family could not contend with. One must know that besides the 3 Saint King level grand elders in the sky, the strongest in the Wang family at this moment were he, the family head in the perfected Saint realm, and a group of elders in the entering Saint realm. General, do you truly wish for an endless war with my Wang family? At this moment, the Wang family head slowly stepped forward and spoke, but his tone carried a threat, clearly indicating that he had been ignited with fury by Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu's actions. The other members of the Wang family also looked at Zhao Zilong with anger after hearing their family head's words. Kill them, leave no one alive. After hearing the Wang family head's words, Zhao Zilong did not reply to him. Instead, he directly ordered the great Xia dynasty generals who had charged in. And as Zhao Zilong's order was given, a fervent glint instantly appeared in the eyes of the great Xia dynasty army. Immediately after, the 3 Saint King realm generals of the great Xia dynasty directly launched an attack against the members of the Wang family. In an instant, the aura from these 3 Saint King level generals was released, and then they charged towards the Wang family members. The true King and King realm soldiers behind them directly began to slaughter the true King and King realm clansmen of the Wang family. The soldiers of the great Xia dynasty army, within the same realm, were stronger than average cultivators of the same realm. Therefore, they were in no way weaker when facing the Wang family's true King and King realm cultivators. Furthermore, their numbers far exceeded the Wang family's true King and King realm cultivators. So in just a moment, numerous bloodstains appeared in the Wang family's main hall. Even the Saint entry-level elders of the Wang family were falling at this moment, while Zhao Zilong, holding a silver spear, slowly watched the Wang family's main hall. He had no intention of acting at this moment, but he also couldn't allow the Wang family head and the other Wang family members to escape. So he instantly sealed off the Wang family's main hall, then ordered the great Xia dynasty army to directly begin a massacre of the Wang family members. If the Wang family had intended to surrender to their great Xia dynasty at the very beginning, then Zhao Zilong and his forces might not have committed such an act of genocide. But now that the Wang family intended to fight the great Xia dynasty to the death, Zhao Zilong naturally had to grant their wish. As the great Xia dynasty army began to slaughter the Wang family clansmen at this moment let out wails of agony. Some of the Wang family clansmen even began to shed their previous haughty demeanor, kneeling on the ground and begging the great Xia dynasty to spare their lives. However, the great Xia dynasty army had already gone berserk with killing, so how could they possibly spare the Wang family clansmen? More importantly, General Zhao Zilong stood by and had not given the order to spare these Wang family clansmen. So as soldiers, they naturally had to obey Zhao Zilong's command. Thus, a frenzied massacre unfolded within the Wang family. And just as Zhao Zilong's side issued the order to massacre the Wang family, the three Wang family grand elders in the sky naturally saw the scene below. Immediately, their eyes filled with fury as they looked at Lu Bu opposite them. If not for Lu Bu blocking them, they would probably have already descended to save the Wang family members. Thinking of this, the anger in the eyes of the three Wang family grand elders could no longer be concealed. Then, they charged towards Lu Bu's direction as if their lives meant nothing. Lu Bu's strength, however, had already reached the late Saint King stage, so he was very relaxed when facing these three Wang family grand elders. His heavenly halberd directly smashed towards the three Wang family grand elders. The terrifying power directly sent the three Wang family grand elders flying. At the same time, the early stage Saint King Grand Elder of the Wang family spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, instantly suffering severe injuries. His aura also began to weaken. As for the other two middle stage Saint King Wang family Grand Elders, although they could withstand Lu Bu's attack at this moment, it was clear that their hands, gripping their weapons, were trembling violently. Evidently, Lu Bu's previous strike had far exceeded their imagination. Before they could even react, the heavenly halberd in Lu Bu's hand once again smashed towards their direction. The terrifying power directly sent the three Wang family Grand Elders present flying once more. But Lu Bu had no intention of stopping at this moment. His heavenly halberd continuously smashed towards the three Wang family Grand Elders in front of him. And these three Wang family Grand Elders could only be forced to block Lu Bu's attacks. Yet, despite this, all three of them were continuously getting injured. Even the weaker Wang family Grand Elder's eyes had begun to lose focus at this moment. At the same time, his internal organs began to shift, and even white bones were exposed in his arm. Clearly, the damage he sustained from that last strike had far exceeded his capacity to endure. As the heavenly halberd in Lu Bu's hand fell once more, the terrifying power directly sent this Wang family Grand Elder flying. He landed in the Wang family's main hall like a ball, and the vitality in his eyes instantly vanished. At the same time, because his vitality disappeared, his aura also began to slowly dissipate, and he instantly turned into a skeleton lying on the ground. Evidently, this early stage Saint King Grand Elder of the Wang family had fallen here. The already panicked Wang family members, upon seeing their Grand Elder fall, were filled with even greater despair. Moreover, amidst the great Xia Dynasty army's massacre, they didn't even have a chance to resist. Thus, one Wang family clansman after another fell. Even the Wang family head was finding it difficult to hold on against the Saint King-level generals of the Great Xia Dynasty at this moment. After all, the strength of the Great Xia Dynasty's Saint King-level generals had reached the Saint King level, no matter how one looked at it. Therefore, the Wang family head was naturally nothing in front of him. At this moment, besides strenuously fending off the attacks brought by the Great Xia Dynasty's general, he probably had no more time to pay attention to the falling of the Wang family clansmen. Chapter 432, The Demise of the Northern Wang Family, the top power in the central region, and Wang Xingqian's wrath. Zhao Zilong's face was devoid of any expression as he watched the Wang family members continuously fall. War is inherently like this. If you lose, you must accept the outcome of losing. Now that the Wang family had lost this great battle, they had to face the consequences of that defeat. As the Great Xia Dynasty army continued its slaughter of the Wang family, the Wang family's saint entry-level elders also slowly perished. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, only the Wang family head remained alive. And the Wang family head was also pierced to death by a spear from a Great Xia Dynasty Saint King-level general at the last moment. At this time, his eyes still held disbelief and unwillingness. Clearly, he had not expected that one day he would perish in the northern region, in this northern region that he had once looked down upon. And it was at the hands of a force whose name he had never heard. Just as the Wang family head fell, the two Wang family Grand Elders in the sky also directly descended. At this moment, the chi on their bodies had begun to dissipate, and at the same time, their life chi was completely erased by Lu Bu. Clearly, the two Wang family Grand Elders had also been slain by Lu Bu. After the two Wang family Grand Elders were slain by Lu Bu, the Wang family was completely absorbed into the Great Xia Dynasty's fold, and the entire Ice Frost City also completely became the territory of the Great Xia Dynasty. After completing all this, Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu also returned directly to the Imperial Palace and spoke with Yu Fei about the Wang family's affairs. To Yu Fei, the Wang family was like a minor interlude. Yu Fei then began to command the entire army to conduct a carpet-like sweep of the entire empire. They wanted to bring the entire empire into the Great Xia Dynasty's embrace in the shortest possible time. However, What Yufei did not know at this time was that, just as the entire Wang family perished in the northern region, at this moment, hundreds of millions of miles away in the central region. At this time, the Wang family, which governed hundreds of millions of miles of land, was the top force in the central region. Although no great emperor-level expert had ever appeared in their family, the Wang family was considered a top force in the entire central region. After all, the Wang family had once produced a quasi-emperor-level expert, and this quasi-emperor-level expert had even competed with Emperor Baizhan on the path to becoming a great emperor, but ultimately, he lost to Emperor Baizhan in a single move. However, even so, the Wang family's influence in the entire central region was considered a top-tier existence. The Wang family's quasi-emperor-level expert, although he did not successfully break through to the great emperor realm, in the eyes of the world, this quasi-emperor-level expert, though he did not break through to great emperor, was not weaker than an ordinary great emperor. If it weren't for Emperor Baizhan, then this ancestor of the Wang family might have been able to break through to the great emperor realm. Moreover, more importantly, the Wang family also possessed an unparalleled prodigy in this era. This unparalleled prodigy only took a dozen years to break through to the true king realm. Everyone felt that the Wang family might have an existence destined to become a great emperor in this era. At this moment, in a spiritual, qi-rich mansion of the Wang family, a middle-aged man with a dignified expression suddenly opened his eyes, and then he looked towards the northern region with a hint of anger in his eyes. Who dares to slaughter my lineage's clansmen? How presumptuous! Then, the aura belonging to his great saint realm instantly erupted, and he seemed like a fierce tiger about to awaken. The moment his aura erupted, all the Saint King-level experts of the Wang family felt it, and even the great saint-level experts of the Wang family all turned their gazes towards this place. What's going on with Wang Xingqian? Why is he so angry? A Wang family grand elder also slowly turned his gaze towards the mansion where the middle-aged man was at this time, and then he looked at the mansion where the middle-aged man was with a look of doubt in his eyes. Wang Xingqian's talent is also among the most top-tier in our Wang family. He break through to the great saint realm in just 1,000 years. It seems this guy must have encountered some problem. Another grand elder also had a smile on his face at this time, and then he slowly looked towards the mansion where Wang Xingqian was. Subsequently, the various Wang family grand elders also flew directly towards the mansion where Wang Xingqian was. While the various Wang family grand elders flew towards Wang Xingqian's mansion. At this moment, in a main hall of the Wang family head's eyes flashed with a hint of anger, but this hint of anger quickly turned into a hint of apprehension. This guy's aura is getting stronger and stronger, but what exactly made this guy angry? Then, the Wang family head looked at the mansion where Wang Xingqian was with a hint of doubt in his eyes. As the Wang family head, his strength had naturally also reached the great saint realm, but he still had some apprehension towards Wang Xingqian. Then, the Wang family head also flew directly towards the direction where Wang Xingqian was at this time, and many other elders also flew towards the mansion where Wang Xingqian was at this time. Soon, dozens of Wang family members, Saint King level and above, appeared in Wang Xingqian's mansion. At this moment, Wang Xingqian's face still bore a look of anger. Even seeing the arrival of the Wang family members, the anger on his face did not dissipate. Xingqian, did something happen? A Wang family grand elder also slowly walked out at this time and asked Wang Xingqian, but could be seen that his face also showed a hint of concern. My lineage's clansmen were killed. After hearing the Wang family grand elder's words, Wang Xingqian slowly turned his gaze towards the Wang family head, and then he said with an angry expression, "Who could kill your lineage's clansmen?" A Wang family grand elder also asked curiously at this time, clearly not believing that anyone could kill the clansmen of their Wang family's Wang Xingqian lineage. The other elders and grand elders, upon hearing Wang Xingqian's words, also clearly didn't quite believe it. If Wang Xingqian's lineage's clansmen were truly killed by others, then they would definitely know. I'm saying that my lineage in the northern region was wiped out. After hearing his grand elder's words, Wang Xingqian looked at the Wang family head with an angry expression, and then he looked at the Wang family grand elder with a gloomy expression and said, after hearing his words, the Wang family members, who had not quite believed it, all turned their gazes towards the Wang family head. At the same time, they finally remembered that there was also a branch of the Wang family in the northern region, and this branch of the Wang family seemed to have originated from Wang Xingqian's lineage. Thinking of this, they all turned their gazes to the Wang family head, because they naturally knew exactly why Wang Xingqian's lineage had gone to the northern region. Chapter 433, the Wang family's powerful members head to the northern region, Wang Teng, the Wang family's prodigy, and the Wang family head's helplessness. When the Wang family head saw everyone looking at him, he scratched his nose, feeling a bit awkward. Of course, at this moment, he was deliberately putting on a show for everyone. In reality, he was already overjoyed. However, at this time, The Wang family's great saint-level Grand Elders also reacted, finally understanding why Wang Xingchen was so furious. But thinking of this, they frowned. After all, the Wang family in the northern region had no significant connection to them. Even if there was a major connection, it was only between them and Wang Xingchen. For a large family like theirs, the demise of that branch of the Wang family in the northern region did not have much impact on them. After all, the strongest cultivator in that branch was only of the Saint King level. In the entire central region, Saint King level cultivators truly didn't amount to much. Although Saint King level and entering Saint level cultivators were the most numerous in the central region, for top-tier family, the most powerful expert must at least reach the Great Saint level. Therefore, after learning that the Wang family branch in the northern region had been annihilated, these Grand Elders showed no significant change in expression. The reason they came to Wang Xingchen was primarily due to Wang Xingchen's talent and the talent of his son, Wang Teng. Wang Xingchen's talent was inherently very powerful, and he might have a chance to become a quasi-emperor realm expert in the future. His son, Wang Teng, had even greater talent, with a chance to become a great emperor-level expert in the future. This was why the Wang family Grand Elders valued Wang Xingchen so highly. No matter what, this time I must go to the northern region to avenge our clansmen. Wang Xingchen naturally knew what everyone in the Wang family was thinking, so he slowly looked at his Grand Elders and said, the Wang family's Grand Elders were all great saint-level experts, and the true old ancestors had even reached the quasi-emperor realm. Logically, Wang Xingchen, with his great saint realm strength, could also become a Wang family Grand Elder. However, Wang Xingchen had other ideas, so he did not become a Wang family Grand Elder. Moreover, the Wang family head also needed to be a great saint-level expert to hold the position. This was why Wang Xingchen had never chosen to become a Wang family Grand Elder. Since it's our clansmen from a northern region who were annihilated, our Wang family naturally cannot stand by and watch. At that time, let a few Grand Elders accompany Xingchen on the trip. The late-stage Great Sage Grand Elder of the Wang family said to everyone present with some helplessness. If Wang Xingchen went to the northern region alone, he naturally wouldn't feel at ease. Although the cultivators from the annihilated Wang family branch were at most of the Saint King realm, those capable of killing Saint King realm cultivators, besides other Saint King realm cultivators, also included those of the Great Saint realm. Although Wang Xingchen's talent was very powerful, allowing him to break through to the Great Saint realm, he was not invincible within the Great Saint realm at present. Therefore, the Wang family Grand Elders naturally wouldn't let Wang Xingchen go to his death. Even if there was a slight chance, they wouldn't allow it to happen. After all, Wang Xingchen might grow to the quasi-emperor realm in the future, and then their Wang family would gain another trump card. The other Grand Elders also nodded after hearing the words of this Grand Elder, clearly agreeing with his idea. However, out of their sight, a hint of gloom appeared in the eyes of the Wang family head, though this gloom quickly vanished. It was replaced by a kind smile. Since the Grand Elder has decided so, then this time, let's send out some Saint King level elders to assist Elder Xingchen. This way, we might resolve the enemies in the northern region more quickly. Then, the Wang family head stepped forward and spoke to the Grand Elders present. When he said this, his words carried a consideration for Wang Xingchen, as if he was thinking for Wang Xingchen at this moment. The Wang family Grand Elders also nodded after hearing the Wang family head's words. Although a few great saint-level experts could indeed resolve this matter. However, bringing a few Saint King-level elders would also be better for investigating who exactly annihilated the Wang family. Upon hearing the Wang family head's words, Wang Xingchen frowned and looked at him. He didn't believe the Wang family head would be so kind as to think for him. However, at this moment, Wang Xingchen was only thinking about revenge. So, after thinking for a while, he didn't ponder it further. Then, Wang Xingchen, accompanied by 2 Great Saint-level Grand Elders and 7 Saint King-level Elders, headed towards the northern region. At this time, Yu Fei and others in the northern region did not yet know that 3 Great Saint-level experts and 7 Saint King-level Elders from the Wang family were heading in their direction. After Wang Xingchen left the Wang family with the Grand Elders and Elders, the Wang family head also appeared in the main hall. At this moment, he gazed towards the northern region with deep eyes, wondering what he was thinking. And at this moment, a young man also appeared behind the Wang family head. The young man did not look very old, but his chi had already reached the true king realm. Greetings, father. My cultivation has breakthrough to the true king realm. In the upcoming Saint competition, I have a chance to fight Wang Teng. Then, the young man cupped his hands to the Wang family head and said earnestly. After speaking, his eyes held a hint of undetectable solemnity. Although the young man's cultivation had also breakthrough to the true king realm, Wang Teng had already breakthrough to the true king realm much earlier, and within the true king realm, Wang Teng had progressed very far. Moreover, Wang Tung's talent far exceeded that of this young man. Wang Tung was the most talented prodigy in the Wang family for thousands of years, born with immortal bones, so his future growth should at least reach the quasi-emperor realm. He even had a high chance of becoming a great emperor-level expert. Longer's cultivation has indeed progressed very quickly, but it will still be difficult to contend with Wang Tung for the position of saint. Wang Tung has already breakthrough to the middle true king realm. The Wang family head looked at his son's face with a hint of helplessness. His son was considered a top prodigy in the entire Wang family, and even in the entire central region, his son's talent was among the best. However, his son was born in an opportune time, encountering Wang Tung, a prodigy suspected to be an immortal reincarnation. Therefore, the Wang family head was not optimistic about Wang Long in this same competition. After all, Wang Tung had already breakthrough to the middle true king realm some time ago, and no one knew if his cultivation had now breakthrough to the late true king realm. Moreover, his strength surpassed that of ordinary prodigies. Chapter 434: The Wang family's past internal strife, and Wang Tung, suspected reincarnation of an immortal. However, the Wang family head then seemed to recall something, and a hint of anticipation appeared in his eyes as he looked towards the northern region. If Wang Xingqian falls in the northern region, then no matter how much of a prodigy Wang Tung is, it won't be that easy for him to grow. He then murmured towards the northern region. At this moment, a hint of ruthlessness suddenly appeared in his eyes. Clearly, a plan had formed in his mind. Father, if Wang Xingqian and the two grand elders truly fall in the northern region, it will have a significant impact on our Wang family. After all, losing 3 great saint-level experts will take our Wang family at least several millennia to recover. Wang Long naturally understood the meaning behind his father's words at this moment, so he looked at his father with some worry and said. However, after speaking, a hint of hesitation appeared in his eyes. If Wang Xingqian truly fell in the northern region, it would indeed be very favorable for him. But if Wang Xingqian truly fell in the northern region, then their family would lose 3 great saint-level experts. The true foundation of a top expert is great saint-level experts and quasi-emperor-level experts. For a top expert to cultivate a great saint-level expert, it takes at least several hundred years. This means that if the Wang family loses 3 great saint-level experts this time, it will take at least a millennium to cultivate 3 great saint-level experts. It's impossible for us and Wang Xingqian's lineage to reconcile. If Wang Tung truly grows up in the future, perhaps our lineage will be annihilated by Wang Tung's lineage. After hearing his son's words, the Wang family head's face showed a hint of helplessness. Although Wang Xingqian was also a member of the Wang family, there was no possibility of reconciliation between Wang Xingqian and their lineage. The only possibilities were the annihilation of their lineage or the annihilation of Wang Xingqian's lineage. Only then could the two lineages coexist peacefully. Wang Long also opened his mouth after hearing his father's words, not knowing what to say. He naturally knew about the relationship between Wang Xingqian's lineage and his own. It turned out that Wang Xingqian's talent was once extremely powerful, and the current Wang family head was several hundred years older than Wang Xingqian. It could be said that when Wang Xingqian was born, the Wang family head cultivation had already reached the entering saint realm. Logically, there shouldn't have been too much animosity between Wang Xingqian and the Wang family head, but no one expected Wang Xingqian's strength to improve so quickly. When the Wang family head broke through to the Saint King realm, Wang Xingqian's strength had already broken through to the True King realm, and he was only half a step away from the entering Saint realm. Subsequently, when the Wang family head broke through to the mid-stage Saint King, Wang Xingqian successfully entered the entering Saint realm. At this time, the Wang family head also felt a sense of urgency, and, at the same time, Wang Xingqian completely entered the eyes of the Wang family's high-ranking members. Those high-ranking members of the Wang family all knew that Wang Xingqian's talent was definitely not weak. However, the Wang family head's talent was also not weak. As the Wang family head successfully broke through to the Saint King consummation realm, Wang Xingqian, this guy, actually caught up later and successfully broke through to the early stage Saint King. This made the Wang family head even more urgent. At the same time, the Wang family grand elder also listed Wang Xingqian as one of the candidates for the family head. The position of Wang family head, which was originally a sure thing, was about to fall to Wang Xingqian. How could the Wang family head at that time be willing? So, during a period when Wang Xingqian was out on an expedition, the Wang family head found an excuse to pin a crime on Wang Xingqian's lineage. Of course, Wang Xingqian's lineage was not particularly powerful. Apart from a few great saint-level experts, most of Wang Xingqian's lineage were Saint King-level experts. Although the Wang family head at that time had not yet become the Wang family head, his power within the Wang family at that time was naturally not weak. Therefore, Wang Xingqian's lineage was driven out of the central region by him. Of course, the top expert of Wang Xingqian's lineage who were driven out of the central region were merely Saint King level cultivator. In Wang Xingqian's lineage, driven out of the central region, appeared in the northern region after continuous migration. Originally having 7 or 8 Saint King level experts, they were secretly reduced to only 3 Saint King level experts by the Wang family head during the migration. Moreover, this was all because Wang Xingqian returned to the Wang family, which prevented the Wang family head from annihilating Wang Xingqian's lineage. When Wang Xingqian returned, he also displayed great divine might, wanted to fight to the death with the then Wang family head. However, because the Wang family head at that time was about to break through to the Great Saint Realm, the Wang family Grand Elder directly stepped in and delayed their great battle. And the members of Wang Xingqian's lineage who appeared in the northern region were not brought back, because they were also afraid that if this lineage was brought back, they would continue to be killed by the Wang family head. This is also why Wang Xingqian's lineage settled in the northern region for several hundred years. And Wang Xingqian even let his cultivation fall because of this incident. When the Wang family head broke through to the Great Saint Realm, Wang Xingqian's cultivation was still late Saint King. Furthermore, for the next few decades, Wang Xingqian's cultivation remained in the late Saint King, and Wang Xingqian himself spent his days drinking heavily. Therefore, the Wang family Grand Elder also decided to pass on the position of Wang family head to the current Wang family head. Thus, the current Wang family head took the position of Wang family head. However, things always take a turn. After the current Wang family head had served as family head for several decades, Wang Xingqian surprisingly met someone from the Chu family during a drinking binge, and it was the current saintess of the Chu family. The cultivation of this saintess of the Chu family was also not weak, having already reached the Saint King consummation realm. Later, this saintess of the Chu family and Wang Xingqian looked at each other, and then the two of them united. After the saintess of the Chu family and Wang Xingqian united, Wang Xingqian, who had originally faded from the eyes of the Wang family's high-ranking members, once again appeared in their sight. At the same time, after several decades, Wang Xingqian's cultivation also broke through to the Saint King consummation realm. Moreover, within a mere 100 years, Wang Xingqian's cultivation directly broke through from the Saint King realm to the Great Saint realm, instantly causing Wang Xingqian, this former prodigy, to rise again. At the same time, it also made Wang Xingqian reappear in everyone's sight. And as Wang Xingqian reappeared in everyone's sight, the birth of his son, Wang Teng, pushed Wang Xingqian's reputation to its peak. When Wang Teng was born, a terrifying celestial phenomenon appeared above the entire Wang family, as if cheering for Wang Teng's birth. And Wang Teng did not disappoint the people of the Wang family, breaking through to the true king realm in just a few decades, instantly becoming a famous prodigy throughout the central region. Chapter 435, Chu Fan breaks through to the Great Sage Realm, temporary mission appears. Wang Teng's appearance reignited the idea of destruction that had once been in Wang Xingqian's heart. Although Wang Xingqian later no longer clung to the position of Wang family head, for Wang Teng's growth, Wang Xingqian naturally began to covet the position of Wang family head. However, he did not expect that this lineage in the northern region would be wiped out. Wang Xingqian had been supported by this northern region lineage to grow, so he naturally felt very grateful to the members of this lineage. Now that they've been wiped out by others, he naturally couldn't bear it. After Wang Long learned of his father's thoughts, he was unable to change them, so he went into seclusion. Meanwhile, the Wang family head also began to act. However, he did not directly send people to assassinate Wang Xingqian. After all, Wang Xingqian had already reached the Great Saint Realm, and he was accompanied by 2 Great Saint Realm Wang family Grand Elders. Therefore, no matter how powerful the Wang family head was, it was impossible for him to send a few experts to kill 3 Great Saint-level experts. Just as the Wang family head was contemplating how to deal with Wang Xingqian, a powerful aura was continuously gathering in the former imperial palace of the Xiaoyao Empire. Soon, as the spiritual qi of heaven and earth continuously gathered in the former imperial palace of the Xiaoyao Empire, a violent tremor suddenly came from deep within the palace. Afterward, Chu Fan slowly walked out from the depths of the imperial palace, and at this moment, the aura on his body had become unfathomably deep. It could even be said that ordinary Saint King level experts would not even dare to breathe in his presence. At this time, Yuan Qingdu had naturally been following behind Chu Fan. Although Yuan Qingdu's cultivation was only late Saint King, Chu Fan trusted him greatly. So, when there were no wars, he would always guard Chu Fan's side. I didn't expect it would take so long to break through to the Great Saint Realm this time, but fortunately the entire northern region is almost in the hands of my great Xia dynasty, Chu Fan said with a smile, feeling the terrifying power within his body. This time, it took almost a month to break through to the Great Saint Realm. Of course, if others knew, they would definitely curse Chu Fan, as who could break through to the Great Saint Realm so quickly. Even Chu Qin's master took several years to break through to the Great Saint Realm, and he had already reached the perfected Saint King realm when he went into seclusion. That is to say, it took him several years to break through a minor realm. However, Chu Fan only spent a month and felt it was somewhat unworthy, which would definitely make others envious. They might even find it unbelievable. Monarch, now only the Overlord Blade sect in the entire northern region has not submitted to my Great Xia Dynasty. Yuan Qingdu also slowly stepped forward and spoke to Chu Fan. These days, Chen Zhibao had been busy sorting out matters concerning the Xiaoyao Empire. This caused him to have no time to deal with the Overlord Blade sect. Otherwise, he would probably have already led his army to attack the Overlord Blade sect. Chu Fan nodded after hearing Yuan Qingdu's words. He was not in a hurry to take over the entire northern region. He was currently thinking about how to quickly resolve the internal affairs of the Xiaoyao Empire. However, due to Chen Zhibao, the internal issues of the Xiaoyao Empire were already close to being resolved. Ding! The system has issued a timed mission. Eliminate the invading enemies. Reward: 1 Great Sage summoning card, 3 Saint King summoning cards. Just as Chu Fan was thinking about how to resolve the internal affairs of the Xiaoyao Empire, the system's voice rang in his mind. This instantly made Chu Fan look towards the system space. He did not expect the system to issue a mission at this time, and it was to eliminate invading enemies. From the system's rewards, it could be seen that the invading enemies this time were at least Great Saint-level experts. System: how many Great Saint-level experts are there among the enemies this time? Chu Fan did not hesitate and directly asked the system. At this time, he also wanted to see how many Great Saint-level experts were among the invading enemies. At the time, Chu Fan was also wondering which force was intervening in the affairs of their Great Xia Dynasty. After all, their Great Xia Dynasty had not truly revealed itself to the world. So, who would send Great Saint-level experts to attack their Great Xia Dynasty? The system did not reply after hearing Chu Fan's voice, as if it had fallen silent. Seeing this, Chu Fan did not plan to get more information from the system. Instead, he silently looked at Dian Wei beside him. Currently, only Yuan Qingdu, Dian Wei, and Su Chu were by Chu Fan's side. Although Yuan Qingdu was once the heavenly treasure great general, having come to this world, he could also be considered a true fierce general. However, Chu Fan still preferred to deal with the honest Dian Wei. Has my Great Xia Dynasty offended any powerful forces recently? Chu Fan then directly asked Dian Wei. After all, if there were divine rank-level experts invading their Great Xia Dynasty, it naturally meant that their Great Xia Dynasty had offended Great Saint-level figures. Monarch, it doesn't seem so. If there must be one, it's that Yufei seems to have killed a mysterious family, but Ned of Luo, an embroidered uniform guard, cannot investigate their true backing force. Only by mobilizing the spies of the underworld can we investigate the true backing force of this family. But Yufei said he doesn't have the ability to mobilize the spies of the underworld. After hearing Chu Fan's words, Dian Wei looked at Chu Fan with some confusion, but he quickly recalled Yufei's report, so he told Chu Fan this information. Although Dian Wei was sometimes a bit slow-witted, he now spoke of this matter with some meticulousness within his rough demeanor. It seems that this time's enemies should be related to this mysterious family, but since they dare to provoke my Great Xia Dynasty, then let them come and never return. After hearing Dian Wei's words, Chu Fan instantly understood the origin of this time's enemies. But why should he fear these enemies? After all, he now had Yuan Ta, who was at the Great Sage Perfection realm, and Fei Peng, who was at the Peak Quasi-Emperor realm, by his side. So why should he fear others? What's more, Sword God was also about to break through to the Great Saint realm. Moreover, he still had a summoning card saved in his system space at this time. This summoning card was an unlimited summoning card, which might be able to summon a Quasi-Emperor realm expert. However, Chu Fan did not intend to use this unlimited summoning card at this time, because he would soon get a second unlimited summoning card, and after resolving the entire northern region, he would also get summoning cards. He planned to save all the summoning cards to summon after resolving the northern region. Chapter 436, First Arrival at the Overlord Blade Sect, the arrogant and domineering disciples of the Overlord Blade Sect. After receiving this temporary mission, Chu Fan was eager to conquer the entire northern region, as this would give him several more summon cards. And this was good. To face future enemies, Chu Fan, thinking of this, directly summoned Yuan Ta. At this time, Yuan Tuo was still cultivating in the Time Pagoda, but after receiving Chu Fan's summons, he emerged from the Time Pagoda. Greetings, Emperor! After Yuan Tuo came out, he seriously cupped his hands towards Chu Fan, and one could feel the powerful qi emanating from his body. Moreover, he held a Xianyuan sword in his hand, making Yuan Tuo look even more like the legendary Earth Emperor. Of course, Yuan Tuo, in the original work, was indeed the Earth Emperor, It was just that his destiny was changed by the demonic lord. Let's head to the Overlord Blade sect. Chu Fan waved his hand at Yuan Tuo and then said, this time, he did not intend to use the Great Xia Dynasty's army. Instead, he planned for a few of them to directly subdue the entire Overlord Blade sect. By then, the northern region would fall into his hands. As Chu Fan gave the order to Yuan Tuo and the others, Yuan Tuo and the others followed behind Chu Fan and headed forward. This time, besides Yuan Tuo, the only others Chu Fan brought to the Overlord Blade sect were Yuan Qingdu and a few others. Just as Chu Fan and his group were heading towards the Overlord Blade sect. At this moment, in the main hall of the Overlord Blade sect in the northern region, many middle-aged men stood, and the chi emanating from these middle-aged men was also very terrifying. Of course, the most terrifying was the one leading them. His cultivation had already reached the Saint King realm. I didn't expect the Xiaoyao Empire and the Shuanghua Empire to fall into the hands of the Great Xia Dynasty so easily. It seems this Great Xia Dynasty is not as simple as we imagined. This Saint King realm expert spoke leisurely as he looked ahead, his eyes filled with disbelief. Clearly, he also hadn't expected these two great empires, the Xiaoyao Empire and the Shuanghua Empire, to fall into the hands of the Great Xia Dynasty so quickly. At the same time, he also hadn't expected the Great Xia Dynasty's strength to be so terrifying. One must know that when he first learned that two armies were attacking the two great empires, he thought these two armies were seeking death. But he hadn't expected these two armies to conquer the two great empires so quickly, which instantly made him feel incredible. Now that the two great empires have completely become the territory of the Great Xia Dynasty, I'm afraid the Great Xia Dynasty's next target will be our Overlord Blade sect. Just as the words of this Saint King level sect master fell, an elder whose chi was also close to the Saint King realm slowly stood out and said. When he said this, the elder's face showed a hint of worry. Clearly, the elder was worried about this point, as according to the current situation, the Great Xia Dynasty's strength far exceeded that of the two great empires, and similarly, far exceeded their Overlord Blade sect. If the Great Xia Dynasty's army were to attack them then, what would they use to resist? Thinking of this, the eyes of the other elders also showed worry. No matter how powerful the Great Xia Dynasty is, our Overlord Blade sect cannot surrender so easily. After hearing the elder's words, the sect master also felt a bit helpless, but at this moment, his eyes were filled with determination as he looked at the elder and the other elders and spoke. Although they naturally knew the Great Xia Dynasty's strength was great, how could their Overlord Blade sect surrender to the Great Xia Dynasty so easily? The other elders also nodded silently after hearing their sect master's words. Clearly, they also agreed with their sect master's opinion at this time. As the sect master made his decision, this meeting also ended. However, what they didn't know was that what happened next was beyond their imagination. Time quickly passed 2 days. In 2 days, Chu Fan and the others arrived outside the Overlord Blade sect from the Xiaoyao Empire. Of course, the current Xiaoyao Empire was no longer the Xiaoyao Empire it once was. Looking at the majestic palace standing on the mountain peak, Chu Fan's face also showed a hint of surprise. He hadn't expected the legendary Overlord Blade sect to be located on a mountain peak. But soon, he led Yuan Tuo and the others slowly towards the Overlord Blade sect. Soon, they arrived at the mountain gate of the Overlord Blade sect, where there were several gatekeeping disciples. Their strength had all reached the Grotto Heaven realm, which in an imperial dynasty would be equivalent to a general. And at the mountain gate, there stood a huge stone tablet, on which the 3 large characters Overlord Blade sect were clearly written. Who goes there? Don't you know this is my Overlord Blade sect? The disciples at the mountain gate, upon seeing Chu Fan and the others arrive, immediately spoke to them. However, at this moment, the eyes of these disciples carried arrogance, as if they were born to be high and mighty. And Jian Wei, upon hearing the words of these disciples, instantly became enraged. How could his emperor be reprimanded by a few mere disciples? He took a step forward, and the chi of his Saint King realm instantly emanated. At the same time, he instantly threw a punch at the few people in front, and the terrifying power instantly sent the people in front flying backward. Then they crashed hard at the mountain gate and stopped. At this moment, these disciples looked at Chu Fan and the others with eyes full of terror and disbelief. They hadn't expected someone to dare to hit their Overlord Blade sect disciples at their mountain gate. Subsequently, one of the disciples directly rang the alarm bell at the mountain gate. Instantly, a melodious bell sound spread throughout the entire Overlord Blade sect. At the same time, terrifying chi rushed out from the main hall, and those terrifying chi from the mountain peak also directly headed towards the mountain gate. As for Chu Fan and the others, feeling these chi, they showed no surprise, but rather looked leisurely at the mountain gate of the Overlord Blade sect in front. However, at this moment, Dianwei did not continue to attack these disciples. After all, his strength had already reached such a level. If he continued to attack these disciples, then these disciples might have already perished. He attacked these disciples just now mainly because he wanted to teach them a lesson. After all, these disciples of the Overlord Blade sect dared to be so contemptuous of his emperor. As a loyal fan of his emperor, how could Dianwei endure it? That was also why he risked directly attacking the Overlord Blade sect disciples in front of him. Of course, for Dianwei and the others, the Overlord Blade sect in front of them could not bring them any risks. After all, their strength was already capable of sweeping through the entire Overlord Blade sect. Chapter 437. The Patriarch of the Overlord Blade sect appears and surrenders to the Great Xia Dynasty. As one powerful aura after another descended, dozens of elders, whose auras had reached the true king realm or above, appeared at the mountain gate. Of course, among these elders, the highest cultivation was only that of a saint entry-level elder. Clearly, the sect master of the Overlord Blade sect and others had not yet emerged. Chu Fan, however, had no time to bother with these true king realm elders, so he slowly looked at Dianwei beside him. Just charge in. He then directly issued the command to Dianwei. Upon hearing Chu Fan's command, Dianwei's face instantly showed a cruel and simple smile, and then he charged directly at the elders in front of him. The terrifying power instantly sent these elders of the Overlord Blade sect flying. In just the blink of an eye, Dianwei dealt with all the elders of the Overlord Blade sect in front of him. Subsequently, these elders of the Overlord Blade sect could only wail and roll on the ground. However, at this moment, when they looked at Dianwei, their eyes were filled with horror. They had not expected this seemingly simple middle-aged man's strength to be so terrifying. Chu Fan, meanwhile, led Yuan Tuo and the others, slowly walking through the midst of the elders, then unhurriedly heading towards the main hall on the mountain peak. As they slowly entered the territory of the Overlord Blade sect, one disciple after another naturally saw them, and these disciples of the Overlord Blade sect continuously came towards Chu Fan and the others. Then they directly surrounded Chu Fan and the others. Of course, at this time, they did not make a move against Chu Fan and the others, because the fact that Chu Fan and the others could easily reach this place proved that their strength was not as weak as they had imagined. So, these people naturally did not dare to act now. As time passed little by little, Chu Fan and the others finally arrived at the plaza of the Overlord Blade sect. At this time, thousands of disciples had already surrounded them. Among these disciples, the weakest cultivation had reached the divine power realm, while the highest cultivation included elders of the true king realm and entering saint realm. At this moment, none of them chose to attack Chu Fan and the others. Instead, they directly surrounded Chu Fan and his people. As time passed little by little, terrifying auras also emanated from the great hall on the mountain peak. Then, a middle-aged man appeared in the center of the plaza. This middle-aged man exuded the aura of the Saint King realm, but his cultivation was merely early-stage Saint King. Behind him were more than a dozen cultivators of the entering Saint realm. All of them looked at Chu Fan and the others with anger in their eyes. However, at this moment, they naturally also felt apprehension towards Chu Fan and the others. After all, how could people who dared to intrude upon their Overlord Blade sect with just a few individuals be weak? Who is your excellency? Forcibly entering my Overlord Blade sect like this is probably inappropriate, isn't it? The sect master of the Overlord Blade sect also spoke at this moment, looking at Chu Fan with a hint of anger in his eyes. He could naturally tell that Chu Fan was the leader of this group. As his voice fell, the surrounding disciples also turned their gaze towards Chu Fan. Today, I'm not here to intrude upon the Overlord Blade sect. I want the entire Overlord Blade sect to submit to me. After seeing the sect master of the Overlord Blade sect emerge, Chu Fan also spoke directly to him. As he said this, there was a hint of playfulness in his eyes. And all the disciples and elders of the Overlord Blade sect, upon hearing Chu Fan's words, grew even more furious. They looked at Chu Fan with anger on their faces, and, at this moment, they even wanted to directly attack him. Does your excellency truly think my Overlord Blade sect is easy to bully? After hearing Chu Fan's words, the aura of the sect master of the Overlord Blade sect instantly erupted, and he looked at Chu Fan with a hint of anger in his eyes. Yuan Tuo, you go and reason with this sect master. Chu Fan, observing the Saint King realm aura emanating from the sect master of the Overlord Blade sect, leisurely turned his gaze to Yuan Tuo beside him. Upon hearing Chu Fan's words, Yuan Tuo directly released his aura, which belonged to the Great Sage Perfection realm. The terrifying aura instantly forced all the surrounding disciples of the Overlord Blade sect to prostrate on the ground. Even the Saint King realm sect master was directly pressed to the ground by this terrifying aura. At the same time, one Saint King Realm aura after another also emanated from the back mountain. Soon, several Saint King Realm old men appeared before the sect master of the Overlord Blade sect. However, upon sensing the great sage perfection realm aura emanating from Yuan Ta, these Saint King Realm old men's eyes were filled with disbelief and horror. Then, they endured the discomfort in their bodies, slowly bowed to Chu Fan and the others, and only then slowly began to inquire. I wonder how my Overlord Blade sect has offended Senior? If there is any impropriety, Senior, please just command, and my Overlord Blade sect will surely fulfill it. An old man of the perfected Saint King realm slowly stepped forward and spoke respectfully to Chu Fan and the others. At this moment, he appeared extremely reserved. However, this was a very normal thing. After all, the strength of Chu Fan and the others in front of them had reached a realm they had never imagined. So, how could they be presumptuous in front of Chu Fan and the others? I want your Overlord Blade sect to submit to me, or rather, to my great Xia dynasty. Upon hearing the old man's words, Chu Fan slowly spoke to him. After speaking, he calmly looked at the old man, awaiting his reply. The sect master of the Overlord Blade sect, who was firmly suppressed by Yuan Tuo's aura, instantly raised his head to look at Chu Fan upon hearing his words. At the same time, he finally understood the identity of this young man who looked like an immortal. And this old man, upon hearing Chu Fan's words, frowned. However, looking at Yuan Ta, who was like a heavenly god, he could only sigh helplessly. Could they still not surrender now? If they didn't surrender, the entire Overlord Blade sect would probably be completely reduced to meat for slaughter. Even their entire sect might be annihilated. I represent the entire Overlord Blade sect in submitting to your excellency. Then, the old man slowly bowed in Chu Fan's direction and then said seriously. After the old man finished speaking, he looked at the surrounding old men and elders. We submit to your excellency. And the others, upon hearing their old ancestors' words, also respectfully bowed in Chu Fan's direction. Since their old ancestor had already surrendered, what objections could they possibly have? Moreover, the person in front of them was so powerful. If they truly didn't surrender, only death awaited them. Chapter 438 Breakthrough to the Mid-Stage of Great Sage, summoning thousand-mile eyes and wind-following ears. After Chu Fan heard that the entire Overlord Blade sect had surrendered to him, he nodded in satisfaction. At the same time, his system reward immediately appeared in the system space. Chu Fan then led Yuan Tuo towards the main hall of the Overlord Blade sect. As for the people of the Overlord Blade sect, they respectfully watched Chu Fan and the others' retreating figures. When everyone arrived in the main hall, Chu Fan directly handed the Overlord Blade sect over to Yuan Tuo, allowing him to handle it however he wished. Yuan Tuo then began to reorganize the entire Overlord Blade sect. Although the Overlord Blade sect was initially somewhat unwilling, how could they be unwilling in front of Yuan Tuo? As for Chu Fan, he entered his system space. Since the mission in the northern region was completed, he naturally had to claim the system reward. Soon, many summoning cards appeared in his system space. Among them, there were 3 Great Saint level summoning cards, and as many as 10 Saint King level summoning cards. Of course, more importantly, there was also 1 cultivation boost card. Chu Fan had broken through to the Great Saint realm during this period, but if he used this cultivation boost card, his cultivation would directly enter the mid-stage Great Sage. Now, the northern and eastern regions are completely the territory of my great Xia dynasty. Next, I should take down the southern and western regions. The cultivation boost cards rewarded for taking down the southern and western regions can also raise my cultivation completely to the Great Sage Perfection realm. By then, I will have my own trump cards and strength when entering the central region. Chu Fan looked at this cultivation boost card, his eyes filled with anticipation. The rewards for the southern and western regions were similar to those for the northern region. Of course, because the experts in the western region did not have high cultivation, there was only 1 Great Saint level summoning card reward for the western region. However, Chu Fan was not particularly concerned about the summoning card rewards, because in addition to the Great Saint level summoning cards and Saint King level summoning cards, the other reward was a cultivation boost card. Because the cultivation boost card could infinitely increase his cultivation could reach the Great Sage Perfection realm by then. If he could hold back, perhaps he could even use the cultivation boost card to raise his cultivation to the Quasi-Emperor realm. Afterwards, Chu Fan directly used the cultivation boost card. In the next second, the chi on his body began to continuously rise. Having just broken through to the early stage Great Sage, his cultivation slowly reached the mid-stage Great Sage. Soon, his cultivation directly reached the mid-stage Great Sage. Moreover, the cultivation gained from using the cultivation boost card was very stable. His current cultivation was like a mid-stage Great Sage he had cultivated and broken through himself. System: Saint King level summoning cards are not very useful to me now. I wonder if Saint King level summoning cards can be exchanged for Great Saint level summoning cards. After his cultivation was completed, Chu Fan looked at the system with a hint of anticipation and asked. As a bookworm in his previous life, he naturally understood the system's operations. At the same time, he also wanted to see if his system could exchange Saint King summoning cards for Great Saint summoning cards. After all, they were no longer lacking in Saint King level experts in the Great Xia Dynasty. It would be better to summon them all as divine rank experts. Ding! 10 Saint King level summoning cards can be exchanged for 1 Great Saint level summoning card. Does the host wish to exchange? As soon as Chu Fan finished speaking, the system's voice sounded in his mind. This system message also made him understand the exchange rate between Saint King summoning cards and Great Saint level summoning cards. In that case, let's exchange them directly. Chu Fan was a little surprised after hearing the system's words. He did not expect that it would take 10 Saint King level summoning cards to exchange for 1 Great Saint level summoning card. However, at this time, he directly chose to exchange the Saint King summoning cards for Great Saint summoning cards. After these Saint King summoning cards were exchanged for Great Saint summoning cards, 4 Great Saint summoning cards appeared in Chu Fan's system space. System: Use all of my current Great Saint summoning cards. Looking at the Great Saint summoning cards in his system space, Chu Fan did not hesitate at all and planned to use them. As soon as he finished speaking, the system slowly began to operate. At the same time, the 4 Great Saint summoning cards were successfully used. Ding! Great Saint summoning card used successfully. Congratulations to the host for successfully summoning Great Saint level characters Clairvoyant and Clairaudient. As soon as Chu Fan finished speaking, the system's voice immediately rang out. At the same time, the first summoning card in his system space directly revealed the figures of 2 characters. These 2 figures were Clairvoyant and Clairaudient from the Investiture of the God's World novels. The appearance of Clairvoyant and Clairaudient also surprised Chu Fan. He did not expect that the characters summoned from the first summoning card were Clairvoyant and Clairaudient. One must know that these 2 were very famous in the Investiture of the God's World. Moreover, even in the later journey to the West World, Clairvoyant and Clairaudient often appeared. Of course, the most important thing was that the cultivation of Clairvoyant and Clairaudient summoned this time had both reached the late-stage Great Sage. Among the Great Saint-level experts, the strength of Clairvoyant and Clairaudient was considered good. I didn't expect to summon Clairvoyant and Clairaudient, but it's not bad. After Chu Fan nodded in satisfaction, he looked towards the second summoning card. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully summoning the Great Saint-level character, Dragonbeard Tiger. The character on the second summoning card slowly emerged under Chu Fan's gaze, but the character on this second summoning card did surprise Chu Fan a little. He had naturally heard of the name Dragonbeard Tiger, because Dragonbeard Tiger was a disciple of Quasi-Emperor Late Stage. Although Dragonbeard Tiger was not particularly famous in the Investiture of the God's World. But no matter what, Dragonbeard Tiger was a disciple of Quasi-Emperor Late Stage, and he was also a character from the Investiture of the God's World. So, even if he was summoned to the Xuanhuan world, his strength should not be too weak. And it was exactly as Chu Fan thought. Dragonbeard Tiger's strength also reached the mid-stage Great Sage, sharing the same realm as Chu Fan currently. However, for Chu Fan, it was enough that Dragonbeard Tiger's strength could reach the mid-stage Great Sage. After all, the cultivation of Clairvoyant and Clairaudient was only late-stage Great Sage. These 2 were more famous than Dragonbeard Tiger in the Investiture of the God's World, and Dragonbeard Tiger had not appeared in the journey to the West World either. However, a Great Saint-level summoning card only summoning 1 mid-stage Great Sage character did make Chu Fan a little disappointed. After all, the first summoning card could summon 2 late-stage Great Sage experts, but Chu Fan was indeed beginning to look forward to the next 2 summoning cards. Chapter 439, Su Chongqing, Great Sage of Perfection, continues summoning, Golden Legend. Chu Fan then looked at the 3rd Great Saint-level summoning card. Since he chose to use all of these summoning cards this time, Chu Fan naturally didn't hesitate too much. As his gaze fell upon the 3rd summoning card, the 3rd summoning card also began to emit rays of light. Then, a golden figure appeared on the 3rd summoning card, and this golden figure held a dazzling golden long spear in his hand. This made the golden figure appear very tall in front of Chu Fan. Subsequently, the name of this golden figure also appeared before Chu Fan. Heavenly General. These 2 words alone made Chu Fan feel a little incredible. At the same time, looking at this golden figure in the system space, a big question appeared in his mind. Heavenly Generals should be the Heavenly Generals of the Heavenly Court in the Investiture of the Gods or Journey to the West Worlds. As Heavenly Soldiers and Heavenly Generals of the Heavenly Court, shouldn't they wear silver-white battle robes? Thinking of this, Chu Fan directly opened the introduction about this Heavenly General And it was indeed as Chu Fan had thought. This heavenly general was one of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the heavenly court. Moreover, this heavenly general's cultivation had reached the great sage perfection realm, which could be said to be a top-tier existence among Chu Fan summons. However, it also surprised Chu Fan that a heavenly soldier and heavenly general of the heavenly court could reach the great saint realm. However, the heavenly generals in the investiture of the gods' world are, after all, outstanding members of the human race, so it is quite normal for him to have a great saint realm cultivation. What made Chu Fan feel incredible, however, was that this heavenly general of the heavenly court was wearing a golden battle robe. After all, the battle robes worn by heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals in Xuanhuan novels or the investiture of the gods' world are all silver-white. Therefore, the golden battle robe he was wearing made Chu Fan feel a little incredible. However, Chu Fan was very satisfied with this summoning card, having summoned a heavenly general whose cultivation was at the great sage perfection realm. Chu Fan then looked at the last great sage summoning card. Since the character summoned from the third great saint level summoning card had already reached the great sage perfection realm, then the character summoned from the fourth great saint level summoning card shouldn't be too bad. Thinking of this, Chu Fan looked at the fourth great saint level summoning card with anticipation in his eyes. Then he directly activated this fourth great saint level summoning card. As this fourth great saint level summoning card slowly opened, a young figure slowly appeared on this great saint level summoning card. And a terrifying pressure emanated from this young man, clearly indicating that the young man's strength within the great saint realm should not be weak. At the same time, the young man was wearing a Taoist robe and holding a long sword in his hand, looking very dashing. Su Changqing. The character on the fourth summoning card instantly appeared in Chu Fan's mind, and at the same time, the name of the character on this summoning card also instantly appeared in Chu Fan's mind. After seeing the name on the fourth summoning card, Chu Fan was a little surprised. He didn't expect the character he summoned this time to be this person. After all, Su Changqing is a very remarkable existence in Xinxia novels, and later on, Su Changqing even became the sect leader of Mount Shu. More importantly, he is one of the main characters in Chinese Paladin 3. Chu Fan had just summoned Fei Peng from Chinese Paladin 3 a while ago, and he didn't expect to summon Su Changqing so soon. At this moment, Chu Fan also saw Su Changqing's true cultivation. He hadn't expected Su Changqing's cultivation to reach the great sage perfection realm. However, thinking about how Su Changqing had continuously cultivated after becoming the sect leader of Mount Shu, until he finally achieved immortal ascension, Chu Fan felt that it was very normal for his cultivation to be at the great sage perfection realm. After all, this guy is in any case connected to the divine realm. Moreover, he even married a descendant of NEWBIE, so how could his opportunity and strength be weak? And it is also normal for him, once summoned, to reach the great sage perfection realm. With the summoning of Su Changqing, this great sage perfection realm expert, the great saint level summoning cards were now completely used successfully. Moreover, these great saint level summoning cards this time summoned 2 existences at the great sage perfection realm and 2 at the late stage great sage. Of course, Chu Fan had not forgotten about the Dragonbeard Tiger, who was at the middle stage great sage. After all, the Dragonbeard Tiger is, in any case, a middle stage great sage, and is in the same realm as the current Chu Fan. Since the great saint level summoning cards have all been used successfully, should I use these 2 unlimited summoning cards next? Chu Fan then slowly looked at the 2 white cards in the system space. During these past few days, Chu Fan had gained another unlimited summoning card. This means that Chu Fan now possesses 2 unlimited summoning cards. If he were to use these 2 unlimited summoning cards, he might be able to summon 2 more experts. But it's possible that he might summon 2 characters who are not particularly powerful. After all, it is a normal phenomenon for unlimited summoning cards to summon ordinary people. Of course, the system generally wouldn't let Chu Fan summon ordinary people. However, Chu Fan quickly looked at the Great Saint level summon characters in the system space. Since the luck with the Great Saint level summon characters wasn't bad, then I'll use these 2 unlimited summoning cards this time. Perhaps they might bring me some surprises. Looking at the characters summoned from the Great Sage summoning cards, Chu Fan also made up his mind. Since the characters summoned from the Great Saint level summoning cards were not bad, then why should he fear that the characters summoned from the unlimited summoning cards will be bad? Moreover, even if the characters summoned from the unlimited summoning cards are not ideal, he has already summoned 5 Great Saint level experts this time, so it's not a particular loss for him. Thinking of this, Chu Fan also made up his mind directly. System, use my unlimited summoning cards. As Chu Fan's words fell, the 2 white summoning cards in the system space began to slowly operate. Then, 1 white summoning card transformed into a purple summoning card, while the other summoning card displayed a golden light. And this golden light was constantly covering this summoning card. Subsequently, this unremarkable white summoning card directly transformed into a golden summoning card. Golden Legend. Seeing this scene, Chu Fan couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, his eyes filled with delight as he looked at this golden light. Chapter 440 Unexpected Summoning Characters. Biyun Tongzi and Demon Lord Chonglu. However, Chu Fan quickly suppressed the excitement in his heart and slowly turned his gaze toward the purple summoning card in front of him. Although the color of the unlimited summoning card is white, it can be converted into other colors before summoning a character. For example, the character summoned by this purple summoning card in front of him would not be too weak. As Chu Fan clicked on the purple summoning card, the card spun continuously inside the system space. As this purple summoning card continuously spun inside the system space, a young-looking boy soon appeared on the summoning card. Moreover, the boy's eyes carried a hint of innocence, as if he were a true child. Chu Fan was also somewhat surprised to see this. He had not expected the person summoned this time to be a young boy, and he didn't look very clever. However, Chu Fan quickly opened the introduction for this boy. Azure Cloud Boy. The boy's name also appeared on the summoning card, and the moment Chu Fan saw it, he felt that the name was somewhat familiar. In just a few breaths, Chu Fan already knew the boy's identity, as this boy was the catalyst for the Great War in the entire investiture of the God's world. Of course, this boy was also the one who died the most tragically and the most innocent. He was the boy attending Shiji in the investiture of the God's world, and he was shot dead by Neza using the heaven-shaking bow immediately upon his appearance. This was why Chu Fan hadn't immediately recalled his name. But now, Chu Fan had remembered his name. He hadn't expected one of the characters summoned by the unlimited summoning card this time to be this boy from the investiture of the God's world. Furthermore, he was the young boy who died the most tragically in the investiture of the God's world, and perhaps many people hadn't even noticed the existence of this young boy. After learning the true identity of Azure Cloud Boy, Chu Fan immediately opened the introduction regarding his cultivation. The moment Chu Fan looked at the cultivation of Azure Cloud Boy, he was completely stunned. He had not expected the cultivation of the inconspicuous Azure Cloud Boy from the investiture of the God's world to have reached early stage Great Sage. One must know that Azure Cloud Boy was extremely unremarkable in the entire investiture of the God's world, yet the version summoned here had reached early stage Great Sage. This instantly made Chu Fan curious, and, at the same time, he began to anticipate just how high the cultivation of characters like Neza would be if they were summoned. Would they reach beyond the legendary Great Emperor realm? After all, since a mere young boy had reached early stage Great Sage, the strength of Neza and others would certainly far surpass him. At the same time, summoning a cultivator at early stage Great Sage using this unlimited summoning card was considered a decent summon for Chu Fan. After all, if he had truly summoned an ordinary person, Chu Fan wouldn't know where he could go to cry. Subsequently, Chu Fan looked toward the golden card radiating streaks of golden light, thinking that since the purple summoning card had managed to summon the Great Saint-level Azure Cloud Boy, then what kind of existence could this golden legend summon? Thinking of this, Chu Fan excitedly opened the summoning card, and immediately, numerous streaks of purplish-black light appeared on the card. These purplish-black lights instantly formed a majestic middle-aged man, who also had a pair of purplish-black wings growing on his back. A pair of horns grew on his head, making him look even more extraordinary. However, the moment Chu Fan saw this person, he understood his identity. Holy crap, no way. I actually summoned him. He couldn't help but curse, yet his eyes were filled with excitement as he looked at the character on the summoning card. The character summoned this time was the Demon Lord Chonglu from a Xinxiao World novel. At this moment, he appeared extremely mighty. Moreover, the Demon Lord Chonglu and Fei Peng originally had a grudge that spanned lifetimes, but Chu Fan had not expected to summon the Demon Lord Chonglu so quickly. When he first summoned Fei Peng, Chu Fan had begun to anticipate when he would be able to summon the Demon Lord Chonglu, but he hadn't expected to summon the Demon Lord Chonglu so soon. After seeing that it was the Demon Lord Chonglu, Chu Fan skipped looking at his cultivation introduction, because the Demon Lord Chonglu's cultivation was originally the same as Fei Peng's. Therefore, the Demon Lord Chonglu's cultivation should also have reached the peak Quasi-Emperor realm. In reality, was exactly as Chu Fan had thought. The Demon Lord Chonglu's cultivation had also reached the peak Quasi-Emperor realm. After all, the strength of him and Fei Peng was originally almost identical, so how could his realm be different from Fei Peng's? After summoning the Demon Lord Chonglu, my great Xia dynasty now has 2 peak Quasi-Emperor realm expert, and as long as Yuan Ta and the others break through to the Quasi-Emperor realm, it will not be difficult for my great Xia dynasty to take over the entire central region. At this moment, A smile appeared on Chu Fan's face. He hadn't expected the great Xia dynasty to possess two existences at the peak quasi-emperor realm so quickly. More importantly, these two peak quasi-emperor realm experts were invincible existences within the peak quasi-emperor realm, and perhaps they could even fight against an early-stage great emperor realm expert. Of course, this was all Chu Fan's own speculation. After all, an expert at the great emperor realm only appears once every tens of thousands of years, so he would naturally be a person of astonishing talent. However, having summoned so many great saint-level existences this time, Chu Fan no longer planned to summon the great saint-level experts who had been previously summoned to the northern region. Although there were enemies invading this time, Chu Fan didn't believe that the great saint-level experts he had summoned this time would be unable to deal with the enemy. Furthermore, even if the great saint-level experts summoned this time couldn't resolve the situation, hadn't Chu Fan also summoned the Demon Lord Chong Lu, an expert at the peak quasi-emperor realm, this time? Thinking of this, Chu Fan began to look forward to the invading enemies this time. After all, as long as he easily dealt with the invading enemies this time, he would receive system rewards. At the same time, Chu Fan began to plot how to conquer other territories. For example, the western region and the southern region should now fall into the hands of his great Xia dynasty. As soon as he resolved the invading enemies this time, he could send troops to the western region and the southern region. In fact, with the current strength of the great Xia dynasty, he could directly deploy troops against the western region and the southern region. This way, he would have a faster time resolving the western region and the southern region, and subsequently, a faster time entering them. Once he completely took over the western region and the southern region, Chu Fan could lead the great Xia dynasty into the central region, and the great Xia dynasty could successfully be promoted to the great Xia imperial dynasty. Chapter 441. Wang Xingchen and others arrive in the northern region. Yu Fei arranges the personnel to deal with them. Because he guessed the origin of the invading enemies this time, Chu Fan, after summoning these powerhouses, headed in the direction of Yu Fei and the others. After all, if the enemies this time really came because of the destruction of the Wang family, then they would definitely appear by the side of Yu Fei and the others. However, before that, Chu Fan handed Su Changqing, clairvoyant, and clairaudient to Qin Jibao, as he didn't know if the enemies this time would appear in the Xiaoyao Empire. If the enemies this time appeared in the Xiaoyao Empire, and the Xiaoyao Empire did not have a great saint-level expert guarding it, then Qin Jibao and the others would face terrifying retaliation. Chu Fan would not be so foolish as to let his Grand Marshal perish. Chu Fan, on the other hand, led Yuan Toa and the powerhouses summoned this time to Yu Fei's location. Their speed was very fast, as everyone's cultivation had already broken through to the Great Saint Realm. So, in just half a day, they arrived at the former Shuanghua Empire, which had now successfully become the territory of the Great Xia dynasty. Upon learning of Chu Fan's arrival, Yu Fei naturally came out to greet him, and Chu Fan, arriving in Ice Frost City, also settled down directly in Ice Frost City. All matters concerning the outside world were left to Yu Fei to handle. As a few days passed, Demon Lord Chong Lu in Ice Frost City also sensed 10 auras descending in the northern region, so he instantly appeared before Chu Fan. During these few days, Chu Fan, fearing that the strength of the enemies this time would not be weak, directly summoned Demon Lord Chong Lu, this great deity. Reporting to the Emperor, 10 auras have appeared in the northern region, 3 of which have reached the Great Saint Realm, and the rest are cultivators of the Saint King Realm. Demon Lord Chong Lu slowly spoke to Chu Fan, a hint of disdain on his face after he finished. Evidently, mere Great Saint-level cultivators could not attract his attention. The only one who could attract Chong Lu's attention was probably General Fei Peng. It seems the enemies this time are not particularly strong. In that case, let Yuan Toa and the others go out and deal with them. After hearing Demon Lord Chong Lu's words, Chu Fan instantly understood the strength of the enemies this time, and then waved his hand indifferently at Yu Fei beside him. After learning about the enemies this time, Yu Fei also began to lay out plans for the entire Ice Frost City. But he hadn't expected the enemies appearing this time to be not as strong as he had imagined. And upon hearing Chu Fan's command, Yu Fei quickly left Chu Fan's side and directly relayed the punitive order to Yuan Toa and the others. At this moment, Wang Xingchen and the others, who had just entered the northern region, did not know that they had already been targeted by Chu Fan and the others in the northern region. Wang Xingchen, who had just entered the northern region, frowned, then felt the heaven and earth spiritual chi of the northern region with a look of disdain. I didn't expect the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the northern region to be so thin. How can our lineage grow in such an environment? Then, Wang Xingchen spoke slowly with a frown, his tone carrying a hint of anger at this point, clearly not having expected the spiritual chi in the northern region to be so thin. The two great saint-level grand elders beside him, upon hearing his words, looked helpless. Although Wang Xingqian's son, Wang Teng, had very high strength and talent, no matter what, they did not want internal strife to occur in the Wang family. And moreover, the enemies of Wang Xingqian's lineage were the main lineage of the Wang family. Therefore, the Wang family grand elder naturally did not want to interfere in their affairs. In such a place with thin heaven and earth spiritual qi, there shouldn't be two strong individuals. I wonder who dares to exterminate my Wang family's disciples. At this moment, one of the grand elders hurriedly stepped forward to change the subject, looking ahead with dissatisfaction in his eyes. At this time, he could naturally feel that it was extremely difficult to grow to the great saint realm in such heaven and earth spiritual qi. In fact, it was almost impossible to reach the great saint realm in such heaven and earth spiritual qi. That also meant that the highest cultivation of their enemies this time would be the Saint King consummation realm. Thinking of this, the Wang family grand elder's face showed a hint of anger. He hadn't expected their family's members to ultimately fall into the hands of natives in the Saint King realm. And the other Saint King realm elders of the Wang family were also furious upon hearing the Wang family grand elder's words, clearly feeling indignant that their Wang family's disciples had fallen into the hands of those in the Saint King realm. Subsequently, the group also began to rush towards Ice Frost City, and Wang Xingqian's anger was completely suppressed by the words of the grand elder just now. At this moment, his most important task was to avenge the disciples of their lineage. As for the grievances with the Wang family patriarch, those would need to be resolved during this Divine Sun assembly. However, Wang Xingqian and the others had only traveled for less than an hour when many figures appeared before them. The leader among them was Yuan Tao, holding the Xinyuan sword, and standing beside him were Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu. Of course, besides Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu, there was also a dazed Azure Cloud boy. This time, Yu Fei originally wanted to dispatch more people to deal with the Wang family members, but Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong, due to their cultivation being on the verge of breakthrough, decided to join forces to confront the Saint Kings of the Wang family. After understanding this reason, Yu Fei decided to let Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong directly deal with the Wang family Saint Kings this time. As for the great saint-level experts, leaving them to Yuan Tuo alone would be sufficient, as Yuan Tuo's strength was unparalleled among those in the great saint realm. And Azure Cloud Boy was following them to prevent any accidents. In other words, Azure Cloud Boy's main purpose this time was not for battle. Rather, it was to protect Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu. Who are your excellencies, and why do you obstruct our path? Seeing the four figures of Yuan Tuo appear before him, a hint of solemnity instantly appeared in the Wang family grand elder's eyes, and he looked at Yuan Tuo with a grave expression, saying, however, at this moment, he had already begun to slowly circulate the spiritual qi within his body. The northern region is the territory of my great Xia dynasty. You all come to my great Xia dynasty's territory and still question the actions of my great Xia dynasty. Shouldn't it be my great Xia dynasty questioning you all? Yuan Tuo slowly stepped forward with a look of disdain and spoke to the Wang family grand elder, his eyes filled with a terrifying majesty as he said this. Although he was not entirely sure that the people in front of him were their enemies, acting in such a manner on the territory of the great Xia dynasty naturally showed no face to their great Xia dynasty. Therefore, he naturally would not give the Wang family members in front of him a good look. Chapter 442, The Angry Wang Xingqian, and the Wang family members intimidated by Yuan Tuo. The members of the Wang family, who had originally been wondering about the origins of Yuan Tuo and the others, instantly turned their gaze toward Yuan Tuo upon hearing his words. At the same time, the look in Wang Xingqian's eyes instantly sharpened, and he could no longer suppress the thoughts in his heart. Since the great Xia dynasty is the dominator of the northern region, does the great Xia dynasty know about the Wang family of the northern region, and who annihilated them? Thereupon, Wang Xingqian took a step forward and questioned Yuan Tuo directly. At this moment, Wang Xingqian was lofty, appearing like the dominator of this entire world. Although Wang Xingqian sensed that the strength of Yuan Tuo before him might far exceed his own, he possessed an innate arrogance at this time. It was as if his power greatly surpassed Yuan Tuo's. Although the two grand elders beside him frowned upon hearing his words, the two Wang family grand elders did not stop Wang Xingqian. Instead, they looked at Yuan Tuo with questioning expressions. It was as if their questioning bestowed immense honor upon Yuan Tuo. The cultivators of the Saint King realm behind them also wore expressions of pride at this moment. It was as if they were facing ants weaker than themselves. The Wang family of the northern region? Something like an ant is not worthy of me, having heard of it. Yuan Tuo looked disdainful when facing Wang Xingqian's questioning. At that moment, he nearly struck down Wang Xingqian right there. After all, Who was Yuan Ta? He was the reincarnation of the legendary Kunlun Mirror, the legendary Earth Sovereign. Therefore, how dare mere cultivator of the Great Saint Realm question him? Audacious! Do you wish for the entire Great Xia dynasty to be buried alongside you? Wang Xingqian had originally anticipated Yuan Tuo's answer, but he had not expected Yuan Tuo to give him such a response, causing Wang Xingqian to instantly become enraged. At this moment, Wang Xingqian glared at Yuan Tuo with fury in his eyes. If he could, Wang Xingqian would even want to tear Yuan Tuo to shreds. Wang Xingqian emitted an aura of furious qi, and the two Grand Elders beside him also released their Great Saint Realm aura. However, they did not choose to directly attack Yuan Tuo at this time. After all, before truly understanding the strength of the Great Xia dynasty's foundation, they naturally would not choose to directly attack the person before them. Not all experts within top families are fools. They naturally would not provoke top experts for their own family. However, the Saint Kings behind them were now looking at Yuan Tuo with anger, clearly feeling that they had been provoked by Yuan Tuo. As members of a top family, they naturally could not stand idly by and watch their family's top experts be mocked by others. If you are referring to the Wang family that possessed 3 cultivators of the Saint King realm, then they have already completely vanished into the long river of history. It was this general who made them disappear. Just as Wang Xingqian's words fell, Lu Bu slowly stepped forward and spoke, a hint of disdain on his face when he finished. Clearly, he held disdain for the Wang family. In that case, the culprit is your Great Xia dynasty. Wang Xingqian's expression instantly turned grim. At this moment, he finally understood why the people before him were so aggressive. He feared that the people before him had long known they would seek revenge for the Wang family, which was why they appeared here directly to block their advance. You can understand it that way, but they deserve their deaths. After all, they dare to disregard the Great Xia dynasty. Not grinding them to dust is already merciful. Zhao Zilong slowly stepped forward and spoke after hearing Wang Xingqian's words, then looked at Wang Xingqian as if he were an idiot. Since that is the case, then the entire Great Xia dynasty should wait for its annihilation. Wang Xingqian had not expected that the target of his revenge would be the people right before him. So he spoke, glaring furiously at the members of the Great Xia dynasty. After speaking, the aura belonging to the early stage Great Sage on his body completely erupted. He stared at Yuan Tuo like a fierce beast. You think you can challenge the Great Xia dynasty with just that? You truly overestimate yourself. When Yuan Tuo sensed the early stage Great Sage aura emanating from Wang Xingqian, the initial look of disdain reappeared on his face, and then he slowly took a step forward. The aura belonging to the Great Sage Perfection realm completely erupted, and the terrifying qi made it difficult for Wang Xingqian even to breathe. It was as if a massive mountain was pressing down on him. Sensing the Great Sage Perfection realm aura on Yuan Tuo, Wang Xingqian raised his head, looking at Yuan Tuo with disbelief in his eyes. He had not expected to encounter an expert of the Great Sage Perfection realm in this small northern region. One must know that an expert of the Great Sage Perfection realm is considered a top expert even in the central region. As long as those quasi-emperor level experts did not appear, the Great Sage Perfection realm was an invincible existence. Please quell your anger, Your Excellency. We have no intention of becoming enemies with the Great Xia dynasty. We request that the Great Xia dynasty consider the Wang family's face and allow us to leave. At this moment, the Wang family Grand Elder was also completely dumbfounded. He had not expected Yuan Tuo's strength to have reached the Great Sage Perfection realm. Immediately, one of the Wang family Grand Elders stepped forward and spoke respectfully to Yuan Tuo. Although their Wang family had its pride, in the face of true experts, no matter how great their pride was, they could only set it aside. Furthermore, they were still unclear about the true power of the Great Xia dynasty's foundation, so they naturally could not push the Great Xia dynasty directly into confrontation with them at this time. The other Wang family Grand Elder also respectfully cupped his hands toward Yuan Tuo at this time. Even the Wang family cultivators of the Saint King level, who had just been arrogant, began to avoid Yuan Tuo's gaze. Their auras were instantly withdrawn, and everyone fell silent. Why should this seat give the Wang family face? Furthermore, is your Wang family worthy of this seat-giving face? Or do you think your Wang family can contend against the Great Xia dynasty? After hearing the words of the Wang family Grand Elder, Yuan Tuo continued, speaking mercilessly. His order this time was to eliminate the Wang family members before him. Therefore, why should he care about the words of the Wang family members? And why should he care about the Wang family of the central region? After all, the Great Xia dynasty was not without influence in the central region. More importantly, Yuan Tuo's personality was inherently like this, so he naturally would not worry about too many things. Chapter 443, The Terrifying Yuan Ta. Zhao Zilong takes on 5 opponents single-handedly. After hearing Yuan Tuo's words, the respectful expression on the Wang family Grand Elder's face instantly vanished, replaced by a look of gloom. Your Excellency, do you truly believe that your great sage perfection realm cultivation makes you invincible in the world? You should know that my Wang family has quite a few quasi-emperor level experts, so does Your Excellency really think my Wang family has no one? A Wang family Grand Elder also stepped forward at this moment, looking at Yuan Tuo with a sinister gaze, saying that he hadn't expected Yuan Tuo to show them, the Wang family, so little face. One must know that in the entire central region, their Wang family was also a top-tier existence. Even those forces with quasi-emperor level experts treated their Wang family with great respect, let alone this great Xia dynasty, whose strength was unknown. Of course, although they didn't know how powerful the great Xia dynasty was, they didn't believe the great Xia dynasty had quasi-emperor level experts. After all, how could a force from a northern region possess quasi-emperor level experts? The presence of a great sage perfection realm cultivator already made them feel incredible. Why waste words with him? Just kill them all, then annihilate the entire great Xia dynasty. Only then can we avenge our clansmen from this lineage. Wang Xingqian, at this moment, looked at Yuan Tuo with an angry expression. His eyes were filled with rage. Clearly, at this point, he had no other thoughts besides revenge. And those Saint Kings behind the Wang family, although their faces showed a hint of worry, more prevalent was their anger towards Yuan Tuo. After all, the Yuan Tuo before them showed not the slightest face to their Wang family. Mere quasi-emperors dare to be presumptuous in front of this lord? Or do you think my great Xia dynasty has no quasi-emperor level cultivators? Or perhaps your Wang family believes my great Xia dynasty has no influence in the central region? Yuan Tuo scoffed after hearing the words of the people before him, then calmly looked at the Wang family Grand Elder and spoke. After speaking, a hint of disdain was still on his face, and the Wang family Grand Elder, upon hearing Yuan Tuo's words, instantly fell silent. At the same time, he constantly speculated about the force behind the great Xia dynasty. After all, if it were a force from the central region, then it would be normal for the great Xia dynasty to have quasi-emperor level experts behind it. Of course, the most important thing was which force was behind the great Xia dynasty and how powerful it was in the central region. Although their Wang family was powerful, there were also people in the central region they could not afford to offend, such as the Heavenly Dao Alliance. No more nonsense. I'll send you all to be reincarnated. Yuan Tuo slowly spoke after looking at the silent Wang family Grand Elder. His voice carried a hint of killing intent, and the chi on his body was also completely released. Then, Yuan Tuo directly struck Wang Xingqian with a palm, and the terrifying power directly sent Wang Xingqian flying. Moreover, this power also carried a terrifying dominance. Thus, Wang Xingqian felt as if his body had been struck by a terrifying dragon, and he was sent flying like a cannonball, heavily smashing into the ground. Instantly, a huge pit appeared on the ground. Yuan Tuo, having done all this, acted as if nothing had happened and continued to attack the 2 Wang family Grand Elders. The cultivation of these 2 Wang family Grand Elders had both reached mid-stage Great Sage, which was considered decent in the central region. However, in front of Yuan Tuo, they seemed like 2 slightly larger ants. He continued to strike at the 2 Wang family Grand Elders in front of him. The terrifying power instantly reached the bodies of the 2 Wang family Grand Elders. Then, a terrifying blazing sun emanated from the bodies of the 2 Wang family Grand Elders, and this terrifying blazing sun instantly blocked Yuan Tuo's attack. However, after only a moment, this terrifying blazing sun instantly shattered, and then the 2 Wang family Grand Elders were seen flying backward with disbelief in their eyes. Just like Wang Xingqian of the Wang family, they were directly sent flying to the ground by this terrifying and dominant power, and instantly, 2 more huge pits appeared next to Wang Xingqian. It was as if 3 meteors had struck the ground. At this moment, Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu also headed towards the Saint King level experts of the Wang family, filled with battle intent. Among the Saint Kings who appeared from the Wang family this time, there were 4 perfected Saint King realm cultivators and 3 late Saint King cultivators. Such a lineup was considered top tier within the Saint King realm. However, the only Saint King level experts that appeared from the Great Xia dynasty this time were Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong. Moreover, both Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong were late Saint King in strength. Lu Bu, holding a heavenly halberd, directly attacked the 2 perfected Saint King realm Wang family elders in front of him. Instantly, he took away these 2 perfected Saint King realm elders of the Wang family. However, even so, the Wang family still had 3 late Saint King and 2 perfected Saint King realm elders remaining. Zhao Zilong, on the other hand, faced the 3 Saint Kings and 2 perfected Saint King realm elders of the Wang family with considerable pressure. However, at this moment, Zhao Zilong's face showed a hint of excitement. Clearly, this was something he had asked Lu Bu to leave for him in advance. Otherwise, given Lu Bu's temperament, he would have definitely taken away all of the Wang family's Saint Kings. Zhao Zilong's dragon gallbladder bright silver spear, like a python, directly attacked a perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family. And this perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family, seeing this scene, had a look of disdain in his eyes. After all, at this moment, he also felt the qi on Zhao Zilong's body. He hadn't expected Zhao Zilong, merely a late Saint King, to dare to challenge him. So, he directly struck out a palm towards Zhao Zilong. This palm seemed to obscure the entire sky, and terrifying power directly headed towards Zhao Zilong. But how could Zhao Zilong be so easily defeated by this perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family? Silver light emanated from the dragon gallbladder bright silver spear in his hand, and then the terrifying power on his body directly pierced through the sky-obscuring palm. Then, the dragon gallbladder bright silver spear in his hand, under the disbelieving gaze of the perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family, directly stabbed towards this perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family. The next second, terrifying power directly landed on this perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family. And this perfected Saint King realm elder of the Wang family also flew backward due to this terrifying power, still with disbelief in his eyes at this moment. Clearly, he also hadn't expected Zhao Zilong's strength to be so powerful. Chapter 444 Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu's incredible fighting prowess, and Wang Xingqian, whom Yuan Tuo dislikes. The remaining Wang family perfected Saint King realm elder and the 3 late Saint King elders of the Wang family also reacted at this moment, quickly moving to attack Zhao Zilong. Although Zhao Zilong could indeed fight above his realm, facing 2 late Saint King Wang family elders and 2 Wang family elders of the Saint King consummation realm simultaneously was still somewhat difficult. Therefore, in just this one strike, Zhao Zilong was repelled by this terrifying power. However, Zhao Zilong's performance truly astonished the Wang family elders. They had not expected that the combined effort of their 4 elders would be unable to directly defeat Zhao Zilong. One must know that Zhao Zilong's current strength was only at the late Saint King. Thinking of this, they continued their assault toward Zhao Zilong, their eyes filled with disbelief. Even the Wang family perfected Saint King realm elder who had just been knocked away by Zhao Zilong followed closely behind the 4 elders, charging toward Zhao Zilong. Subsequently, the 3 late Saint King elders and the 2 perfected Saint King realm elders of the Wang family began to launch a joint attack directly at Zhao Zilong. They wielded long spears and long sabers, and weapon after weapon radiated terrifying brilliance as they attacked Zhao Zilong. Zhao Zilong, meanwhile, excitedly gripped his dragon gallbladder bright silver spear. Then he quickly used the dragon gallbladder bright silver spear in his hand to counter the enemies. The power in his hands was continuously increasing. Following this, the figures transformed into streaks of light, constantly clashing in the sky. The Wang family elders realized at this point that their combined efforts were still unable to defeat Zhao Zilong, but this only strengthened their resolve to kill him. Subsequently, the great battle unfolded ceaselessly in the sky. Under the siege of the crowd, the qi surrounding Zhao Zilong did not diminish. Instead, it was continuously increasing. Under this kind of pressure, the speed at which Zhao Zilong's strength grew far exceeded normal circumstances. Just as Zhao Zilong was using the pressure from the Wang family elders to continuously raise his cultivation. At this time, Lu Bu was also engaged in a fierce battle with 2 Wang family perfected Saint King realm elders. The heavenly halberd in his hand seemed like a weapon used by a demon god, continuously striking toward the Wang family perfected Saint King realm elders. These 2 Wang family perfected Saint King realm elders also held 2 long spears and continuously fought Lu Bu. For a time, the 2 of them managed to fight Lu Bu to a draw. Therefore, Lu Bu and the 2 Wang family perfected Saint King realm elders in the sky were currently in a state of equilibrium. Haha, come again. After sensing that the 2 Wang family elders before him were quite strong, a smile instantly appeared on Lu Bu's face, and he immediately unleashed the qi surrounding his body. No matter what, the Wang family was a top power in the central region, so the strength of these perfected Saint King realm elders far surpassed that of the ancestors at the perfected Saint King realm in the northern region. This allowed Lu Bu to fully engage in battle with the 2 Wang family elders. The heavenly halberd in his hand was wielded with fierce power. At the same time, streaks of purplish-red light continuously gathered toward Lu Bu's body, as these purplish-red lights converged into his body. Lu Bu's qi also began to increase. At this moment, He stood between heaven and earth, looking like a demon god. Gradually, these two Wang family perfected Saint King Realm elders began to lose ground against Lu Bu. After only fighting for a moment, these two Wang family perfected Saint King Realm elders began to fall into a disadvantage. Lu Bu, whose chi was currently rising, frowned upon sensing this. He had not expected these two fellows to be so unsatisfying. If these two continued like this, it might be difficult for Lu Bu to achieve a breakthrough to the Saint King Consummation Realm. At this moment, Yuan Tao on the other side naturally noticed this, and he lightly glanced down at Wang Xingchen below him. Then, he simply waved his hand, sending Wang Xingchen flying directly in front of Lu Bu. Seeing this scene, Lu Bu instantly understood Yuan Tao's intention, and that cruel smile reappeared on his face. He then immediately charged toward Wang Xingchen, heavenly halberd in hand. Wang Xingchen, who was originally being toyed with by Yuan Tao, was also surprised to see Lu Bu in front of him. He had not expected that he, a great saint-level expert, would have to deal with a late Saint King cultivator. However, Wang Xingchen quickly smiled because dealing with a Saint King realm prodigy would make his battle simpler, and Wang Xingchen now wanted to kill Lu Bu to retaliate against the humiliation Yuan Tao had just inflicted upon him. Subsequently, a long saber instantly appeared in his hand, and he immediately attacked Lu Bu. The terrifying power instantly sent Lu Bu flying several miles away. But how could Lu Bu care about such things at this moment? He continuously swung the heavenly halberd in his hand, and his entire body shot out like an arrow. The heavenly halberd in his hand slashed directly toward Wang Xingchen. It then collided with the great saber in Wang Xingchen's hand, and the moment they clashed, a violent sound echoed throughout the sky. At the same time, this terrifying fluctuation directly sent both Lu Bu and Wang Xingchen flying backward. This time, Lu Bu was directly sent flying dozens of miles away, while Wang Xingchen, who was facing him, merely retreated dozens of steps. Of course, each of his steps covered a distance of 100 meters. Although Lu Bu was still at a disadvantage in this exchange, the fact that he could repel Wang Xingchen, an early-stage great sage, using his late Saint King cultivation, showed just how powerful Lu Bu was. At this moment, the two Wang family grand elders on the other side watched this scene, their eyes filled with disbelief. They had not expected the great Xia dynasty to possess such terrifying prodigies, and at the same time, a sense of terror arose in their hearts. At this moment, they felt that they might all perish here today. After all, besides the ferocious Lu Bu, Zhao Zilong's strength on the other side was also formidable. He was currently capable of fighting two perfected Saint Kings and three late Saint King experts from the Wang family. Moreover, after the two Saint Kings who had just been fighting Lu Bu disengaged from that battle, these two Wang family elders at the Saint King Consummation Realm immediately joined the battle on Zhao Zilong's side. Instantly, the pressure on Zhao Zilong intensified, but when facing this even more terrifying might, Zhao Zilong looked even more excited. At this moment, his face showed not only excitement, but also a stronger sense of battle intent. Simultaneously, the chi surrounding his body was continuously increasing. Chapter 445: The Tragic Story of Zhao Zilong. Breakthrough Under Adversity AI Model. Gemini 2.5 Flash. At this moment, Zhao Zilong's combat power was already heaven-defying. It could be said that even prodigies with sacred bodies could not reach Zhao Zilong's level in the late Saint King stage. Moreover, the Saint Kings of the Wang family, facing him, grew more and more alarmed as they fought, and many of them now had expressions of disbelief in their eyes. But for Zhao Zilong, improving his strength was the most correct choice. As the pressure grew, Zhao Zilong began to show wounds on his body while facing these deceased members of the Wang family. Seeing the wounds appear on Zhao Zilong's body, the Saint Kings of the Wang family finally revealed excited expressions, and then they excitedly wielded the weapons in their hands, constantly charging towards Zhao Zilong. After all, the appearance of injuries on Zhao Zilong's body was the best start for them. However, what these members of the Wang family did not know was that a hell-like slaughter awaited them next. As the Saint Kings of the Wang family continuously attacked Zhao Zilong, the blood on Zhao Zilong's body increased, and soon his silver-white battle robe was stained with much blood. What was even more shocking was that Zhao Zilong's aura also began to slowly diminish, as if Zhao Zilong could fall at any moment. Azure Cloud Boy, who saw this scene from outside, also intended to act, but he was stopped by Yuan Tao just as he was about to make a move. If Zhao Zilong wanted to break through quickly, then he had to experience this great battle. Although Zhao Zilong's aura was diminishing at the moment, Yuan Tao could indeed perceive that even as Zhao Zilong's aura weakened, a tenacious vitality was constantly growing within his body, meaning that Zhao Zilong would not fall unless a truly top expert acted. At most, he would be severely wounded. Thinking of this, Yuan Tuan naturally did not intend to let Azure Cloud Boy intervene. At this time, Yuan Tuan was suppressing the two Wang family Grand Elders in front of him. He did not kill the Wang family Grand Elders immediately. After all, if the pressure Wang Xingqian put on Lu Bu's side was not enough, Yuan Tuan would unhesitatingly throw a Wang family Grand Elder over. As Zhao Zilong's injuries increased, his silver-white armor was also dyed blood red, and blood continuously dripped from his hand. At this moment, Zhao Zilong looked as if he was a person who had walked out of a pile of blood. However, the aura on his body did not stop. Soon, Zhao Zilong seemed to fall into a state of deathly silence. He stopped moving his hands, and at the same time, his aura completely disappeared. The Saint King level elders of the Wang family who saw this scene were also somewhat surprised. They did not expect Zhao Zilong's aura to suddenly vanish. This situation instantly made them feel incredible. But after completely discovering that all of Zhao Zilong's aura had disappeared, a smile appeared on their faces. Zhao Zilong in front of them seemed to have completely fallen. However, what they did not know was that at this moment, a silver-white bloodline within Zhao Zilong's body was constantly circulating throughout him. This silver-white bloodline also directly cleansed the blood within Zhao Zilong's body, as if Zhao Zilong was undergoing a blood transfusion at this time. Moreover, as this silver-white bloodline continuously traversed through Zhao Zilong's bloodline, Zhao Zilong's already jade-white skin also began to slowly transform. One by one, blood clots fell from his body, and even the scars began to slowly recover at this time. In the blink of an eye, the scars beneath Zhao Zilong's armor completely healed. At the same time, this silver-white bloodline also directly flowed to Zhao Zilong's heart. As this silver-white bloodline reached Zhao Zilong's heart, Zhao Zilong's previously stopped heart began to beat again. Each beat was incredibly strong and powerful, and at the same time, a terrifying aura instantly emanated from Zhao Zilong's body. The Saint Kings of the Wang family also completely reacted at this moment, looking in Zhao Zilong's direction with disbelief in their eyes. At the same time, they did not hesitate in the slightest and directly attacked Zhao Zilong. They did not want any accidents to happen. And just as their weapons were about to land on Zhao Zilong, a silver-white light appeared around Zhao Zilong, enveloping him. The weapons of these Saint Kings of the Wang family landed on Zhao Zilong's silver-white light, and then these Saint Kings of the Wang family were directly bounced away by this terrifying power. At this moment, Zhao Zilong seemed to be undergoing a metamorphosis, like a silkworm turning into a butterfly. Under the embrace of this silver-white light, the silver-white light on his body continuously circulated. At the same time, the aura of the late Saint King within his body completely changed. In just a blink of an eye, Zhao Zilong's cultivation had already reached the Saint King consummation realm. And more importantly, Zhao Zilong's cultivation, having reached the Saint King consummation realm, did not stop. Instead, it continuously ascended until his cultivation ascended to the point of almost breaking through to the Great Saint realm, and only then did his aura stop. However, Zhao Zilong did not break through to the Great Saint realm this time. But even so, Zhao Zilong was not far from the Great Saint realm. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he could break through to the Great Saint realm. As Zhao Zilong's cultivation broke through to the Saint King consummation realm, the silver-white light around him was slowly absorbed by his body. At the same time, his battle armor, which had been dyed blood red, also began to slowly transform. The blood-red blood on his armor began to slowly twist, and then all of this blood-red blood peeled off. Subsequently, a brand new silver-white battle armor once again appeared before everyone. At this moment, Zhao Zilong, clad in a silver-white battle armor, looked like a true heavenly general. He instantly opened his eyes, and two silver-white light beams shot out from his eyes. These two silver-white light beams went directly towards the Wang family Saint Kings in front. And Zhao Zilong tightly gripped the Dragon Gallbladder Bright Silver Spear in his hand, and then, holding the Dragon Gallbladder Bright Silver Spear, he directly charged towards the Saint Kings of the Wang family. The terrifying aura of his perfected Saint King realm was also completely released. Under his suppression, the people of the Wang family had disbelief in their eyes. Then, Zhao Zilong's Dragon Gallbladder Bright Silver Spear directly stabbed towards a late Saint King elder of the Wang family. The terrifying power instantly pierced him away before this Saint King of the Wang family could even react. And at the same time, a huge blood hole appeared on this Saint King of the Wang family. He looked in Zhao Zilong's direction with unwillingness in his eyes. But in just a moment, his aura completely disappeared. Chapter 446, Zhao Zilong after his breakthrough, followed closely by Lu Bu's breakthrough. Dead. No one expected that an elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family would be killed by Zhao Zilong with a single long spear thrust. One must know, This was an elder at the late Saint King stage. Even a cultivator at the Saint King consummation realm would not find it this easy to slay a cultivator at the late Saint King stage. Yet, Zhao Zilong now killed this elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family with just one long spear thrust, instantly filling the eyes of the Wang family's Saint King level elders with an expression of disbelief. At that moment, many Saint Kings of the Wang family looked at Zhao Zilong's direction with trepidation. They had never imagined that Zhao Zilong's strength would increase so much after his nirvana breakthrough. Then, everyone watched Zhao Zilong's direction cautiously. But how could Zhao Zilong give them a chance now? Zhao Zilong continued to wield his long spear and charge towards the Wang family's Saint King elders. The long spear in his hand was like a soul-reaping hook. He gently swung the long spear in his hand towards an elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family. The next second, an even more terrifying power directly struck this elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family. Subsequently, this elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family flew backward like a kite with a broken string. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood in the sky. However, this elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family did not fall at this moment. Instead, a silver-white light still flickered continuously on his chest. Evidently, this elder at the late Saint King stage from the Wang family was protected by the treasure on his chest, which saved his life. Otherwise, he would have likely fallen into Zhao Zilong's hands by now. And this completely made the other Saint Kings of the Wang family realize how powerful Zhao Zilong's strength was. Then, the remaining Saint Kings of the Wang family exchanged glances, and a look of determination could be seen in their eyes. Subsequently, these Saint Kings of the Wang family resolutely charged towards Zhao Zilong's direction. Since Zhao Zilong's strength had increased to this extent, they now only had a chance to survive under Zhao Zilong's hands by joining forces. Otherwise, only death awaited them. Thinking of this, the Wang family's Saint Kings also began to charge towards Zhao Zilong's direction. The idea of these Saint Kings from the Wang family was not bad. Under their combined efforts, Zhao Zilong could not slay them all at once. Subsequently, Zhao Zilong engaged in a great battle with these Saint Kings from the Wang family. Just as Zhao Zilong and these Saint Kings from the Wang family were locked in battle. At this time, Lu Bu's aura on his side was also becoming increasingly terrifying. When he saw Zhao Zilong successfully break through to the perfected Saint King realm, a hint of surprise appeared in Lu Bu's eyes. However, the surprise in his eyes was quickly replaced by excitement. Since Zhao Zilong had already breakthrough to perfected Saint King through nirvana, Lu Bu naturally could not fall too far behind. After all, although Zhao Zilong and he were the best partners, there had always been a rivalry between them. Now that Zhao Zilong had entered the perfected Saint King realm a step ahead of him, Lu Bu naturally could not allow himself to fall too far behind Zhao Zilong. Thus, Lu Bu's aura began to surge slowly. At the same time, he continuously brandished the heavenly halberd in his hand, charging towards Wang Xingchen in front of him. At this moment, Wang Xingchen's face still held an expression of shock. What shocked him, besides Lu Bu's combat power, was even more so that Zhao Zilong had undergone a nirvana breakthrough to the perfected Saint King realm. At this moment, he finally realized how powerful the Great Xia dynasty truly was. The strength of just these two generals from the Great Xia dynasty made him feel incredible, let alone the other powerhouses within the Great Xia dynasty. However, Wang Xingchen now also understood Lu Bu's intentions in front of him, so a malicious look instantly appeared in Wang Xingchen's eyes. How could this seat allow you to break through to the perfected Saint King realm? This seat wants you to die at your most excited moment. Subsequently, he quickly brandished the weapon in his hand, wanting to stop Lu Bu, as Lu Bu's aura was already close to the perfected Saint King realm. If Lu Bu were allowed to continue like this, then it would probably not be too difficult for Lu Bu to break through to the perfected Saint King realm. And when Lu Bu saw Wang Xingchen starting to target him, a hint of mockery instantly appeared on his face. Then, he laughed heartily and, raising the heavenly halberd in his hand, charged towards Wang Xingchen in front of him. At the same time, the terrifying purple chi on his body continued to erupt. As these purple chi enveloped Lu Bu entirely, Lu Bu's aura also became increasingly terrifying, and at the same time, a purple bloodline continuously flowed within his body. This purple bloodline continuously expelled the hidden injuries within Lu Bu's body. Streaks of blood oozed from Lu Bu's skin. As this fresh blood continuously flowed out from Lu Bu's body, Lu Bu's aura also began to slowly grow. Seeing this scene, Wang Xingchen also began to get anxious. Lu Bu's current situation was remarkably similar to Zhao Zilong's earlier situation. If this continued, Lu Bu would certainly be able to break through to the perfected Saint King realm. Thinking of this, Wang Xingchen also quickly brandished the great saber in his hand. He wanted to use this to hinder Lu Bu's breakthrough. After all, most people who wish to break through need to find a quiet place to do so. Only then can they truly break through to the next realm. However, Lu Bu and Zhao Zilong now chose to break through during a great battle. Zhao Zilong's breakthrough was not interrupted because the silver-white light protected him. But Lu Bu's situation was different now. He actually chose to break through directly during a great battle. However, no matter how much Wang Xingchen wanted to stop Lu Bu, how could he possibly stop Lu Bu? The purple bloodline within Lu Bu's body had already completely reached Lu Bu's heart. The next second, an even more violent aura instantly erupted from Lu Bu's body. Perfected Saint King Realm. At this moment, Lu Bu completely entered the Perfected Saint King Realm, and he did so with a powerful stance. At this time, Lu Bu's aura, in addition to being at the Perfected Saint King Realm, was still continuously growing. Ultimately, he directly break through to the Perfected Saint King Realm right under Wang Xingchen's nose, and he was not far from the Great Saint Realm. Lu Bu's current aura was similar to Zhao Zilong's aura. Both of them directly entered the Perfected Saint King Realm through this great battle, and both were at a realm on the verge of breakthrough to the Great Saint Realm. Perhaps it won't be long before both Zhao Zilong and Lu Bu can break through to the Great Saint Realm.